Welcome everybody to the May 1st Town Board meeting. Please rise for the pledge. Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please be seated.
Councilmember Totino?
Present.
Supervisor Albrecht? Here. Councilmember Foreman? Here. Councilmember Rye?
Here.
So I got a total of 6 items for special consideration, but 3 are discussion items and 3 are resolutions. 1 for water, 1 for sewer for 176 Old Castle Point Road, and 1 for discussion and resolution to sign the contract for the Little League lights. I'd like to amend the agenda with that. I'll present that as a motion. Can I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. Next up is acceptance of minutes. We don't have any. Next up is ID number 9215, public hearing for proposed local law to amend the town code, add chapter 113, property maintenance. I present the motion to open up the public hearing. Can I have a second?
Second.
Rye, all in favor?
Aye.
So now we're having a public hearing to hear anybody's comments regarding property maintenance.
Ozzy, if I could just say something on that real quick.
Absolutely.
So the town has a practice in which once an agenda item is created, it gets carried forward until it's closed out. And so what's happened a couple of times, particularly with this local law, is that the original draft gets put in to the record, into your packet, and then it's revised. There's a red line, another copy, we make changes, and that gets put into the record. And then finally, the clean copy that you're going to act on, consider tonight, gets put in as well. And so you wind up with multiple copies of the local law in your packet, and sometimes it's hard for the public to tell which one is which. So the easiest way is, of course, to go to the end of the packet and take a look at the resolution for approval, and you'll see the clean final copy there. But tonight, if you're looking at the legal notice in the first part, the version of this local law that you're acting on appears at page 28 and continues until the end. And then, of course, it appears at the end of the packet with the approval resolution, and that's at page 77. Just so we're clear, there was some issue about the provision regarding fences and whether it was going to be requiring painting and staining and all. The final version just has one sentence saying they have to be kept in good repair, and likewise the provision regarding wood on lots has been deleted. So that's the version that we're acting on tonight. If anybody has comments on that, that's the version to comment on.
Mr. Anderson?
Anderson, 29 District Court. Thank you for explaining that. Could not figure out why there was 3 copies.
Well, that way you can kind of see the progression. If you really want to see how the elephant got his trunk, it's not a bad practice, but it can be confusing.
It's confusing. Anyway, I'm here to talk about the property maintenance code. Been here a couple of times and brought up different pieces of property that have not been being maintained, so I'm a little confused why we're having a new local or chapter 113 on property maintenance, when in fact the town already has in chapter 50, the building construction administration code, which when I read it seems to say the same thing. New York State has a property maintenance code that the town is required to enforce. You can make a code that's more restrictive, you can't make one that's less restrictive. My concern with all of this, and I applaud the fact that you're doing this isn't in fact going to be enforced, because currently the New York State Property Maintenance Code and the town's own code is not being enforced. And I like pictures, so I brought some. This is the pictures from the Duchess Mall, which has been brought up a number of times. And if you pass them around, you can come if you'd like. I took those this morning, just so you know they're current. In those pictures are instances where roofs are caving, well, at least the soffits, from what I could see, driving through the pothole Village Drive, where the roof appears to be caved in, where the borders, the plywood is not coming down, is coming down where it's not safe. To drive through there, and you have to drive through there if you're coming from the south to enter that plaza to go to Home Depot, McDonald's, or Dutchess Community College. You're driving through. It was a real, very difficult to drive through there. we're not enforcing the laws that we have now. How are we going to enforce this new one? Because this has been going on, many people have come up here and brought it up. It's one of the first things you see when you drive into the town of Fishkill. We brought it up, and it's not being corrected. You know, quite frankly, and I find where I wrote it, because I want to make sure I say it correctly. And I did go through and highlight all of the violations you can have this also. And I guess my comment is that we all agree that the Duchess Mall property is an eyesore. And I'm pretty sure that we all agree that it's unsafe. My question is, in what the purpose of why I'm here today is why hasn't it been addressed by the town board and the building department? I'd ask anybody on the board how you would feel if one of our first responders went into that structure, or the two structures, to fight a fire, to take police action, or deal with an emergency medical situation that was injured or worse. The responsibility for addressing this is the town, and we need to take action, not continue to talk about how awful it looks, and continue to pass new laws. We need to enforce the ones that we have.
Thank you. Anybody else? Ms. LaVoy, we're about to talk about the property maintenance. Did you want to say something about that?
Public hearing.
I have
You have nothing? Okay. Hearing nothing, make a motion to close the public hearing. Can I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Next up is a presentation from Dr. Bach and his staff from the Wappinger School District regarding the budget. Dr. Bach, thank you for coming.
Thank you.
Good to see you, sir.
Thank you, Supervisor.
My pleasure.
Councilman, thank you. Councilman, thank you. Thank you. Very, very pleased to be here this evening. Thank you again, Supervisor Albra, members of the town board, and the guests that are here this evening. I appreciate the opportunity to present to you this evening the 24-25 ballot proposition for the Wappinger Central School District. This is a total team effort. I need to recognize the members of our Board of Education who unanimously approved this recommendation. President John Lumia, Vice President John S. Morgan, Trustee Marie Johnson, Trustee Keith Odoms, Trustee Peggy Kellum, Trustee Eddie A. Slowshower, Trustee Michael McFarland, Trustee James Spencer, and Trustee Cheryl Neggins. Obviously, the members of the senior staff have been extremely involved in putting this budget together. I would like to recognize Mr. Darren Olkema, Assistant Superintendent for Administration and Information Systems, Dr. Michelle Cardwell, Assistant Superintendent for Curriculum and Instruction, our Assistant Superintendent of Finance and Business Development, who has done an absolutely phenomenal job and is with us this evening, Ms. Kristen Dainty, Assistant Superintendent of Student Support Services, Mr. Richard Zipp, our Executive Director of Human Resources, Renee Harris, Executive Director of Special Education, Julia Montoya, Director of Facilities, Ronald Groas, and our District Clerk and Secretary to the Superintendent, Ms. Alberta Pagler. Thank you, Councilman. Oh,
You got it?
magic. So, the 24-25 ballot includes two propositions. First of all, we have the budget, just under $306 million. Proposition 2 is the bus purchase, just under $2.7 million. So let me explain a few things as to why those numbers are where they are. I think many of you know that we have the 9th largest school district in New York State. And the prices that we have all paid for goods and services, especially groceries and gasoline, has risen dramatically over the past year. Those prices impact our school district and our ability to provide mandated programs and services. So first, let's talk about Proposition 1.
Craig.
I did it with my...
Yeah. So, how did we develop this budget? It wasn't a bunch of people just sitting in a room saying, what do we need, what don't we need, what are our priorities? We followed the core mission and values of the school district. We looked for input from our community, in which the community responded. Website budget at wcsdny.org, or the emails that were sent to the school district, either to myself personally, other members of the administration, or to the business and finance department. The values and goals of our Board of Education, as well as the values and goals of the district office senior staff, our building administration, and the nearly 2,000 staff members that we employ. What were their priorities? What were the programs and services that they felt were necessary to provide to our students? We're working on a little delay. Hopefully I'm not working on a little delay. So, I can say this is a student-centered budget focused on success. This budget maintains the current programs that we have, with continued support for academic, special education, ENL, enrichment, extracurriculars, and professional development for staff. As I've mentioned many times, the top priority of our school district is the safety and the security of our students and staff. We continue to focus on mental health and safety for both students and staff. As we all know, there are individuals that have returned to our district who have changed somewhat since the start of the COVID pandemic. Particularly students who may not have required certain services and programs, they now do. It's our responsibility to provide those, and we will do that. We also need to prepare today's students for tomorrow's opportunities. And you may have heard me say this publicly before. I don't believe that the directives that we've gotten from New York State for the last 20 or 30 years have necessarily helped in that area. I am not one who subscribes to the theory that everybody is college ready. Yes, some students are college ready, some students are not. It can't be a one-size-fits-all. Fortunately now, some of the changes that have been made at the State Education Department are allowing for multiple pathways in order for a student to graduate, as opposed to a be-all, end-all 3-hour exam that determines whether or not you graduate on 12 years of education. There are now other assessments and other pathways. So the state has indicated that they are supportive of career and technical education. We were very fortunate, and I'll speak later about a grant that we received in conjunction with Dutchess County BOCES and Dutchess Community College that is going to benefit this community right down the street at Dutchess Community College, Fishkill. We'll talk a little bit more about that. I think you've noticed that we have addressed the infrastructure in this school district, particularly over the last 8 years. Our newest building was built in 1968. We now have signs at all of our secondary schools, electronic signs that they can use to promote student activities and the types of programs and services that they provide to the community. It's nice to drive by those schools and see functioning signs that are there to promote the positive things that we do in our community. So, we continue to lead the way in instruction. We talked about career and technical programs, college readiness, and added supports. The P-TECH program, which is the Pathway to Early College, is going to be housed for the entire county within our school district, and I'm very, very proud to say that. It will be housed at Roy C. Ketchum High School. It will be open to 50 students throughout Dutchess County to participate in a program that will involve taking their freshman and sophomore years at Roy C. Ketchum High School, then moving over to Dutchess Community College Fishkill, where they will complete their junior and senior years, and they will graduate with an associate's degree in electrical technician, and they also, our employers have indicated, will have opportunities for entry-level positions that pay between $75,000 and $85,000. We're looking forward to this. This is just the beginning. And again, I need to thank the governor for this P-TECH grant. The Winter Circle Project. John Jay High School, Roy C. Ketchum High School, what is it? We work with the Winter Circle Project. We've also worked with Dyson Racing. We have 70 students involved in a program that not only builds cars from scratch, race cars, not only do they learn how to build a car and how to maintain a car and all of the things cars related, but we also have a portion of our business and marketing students that also work to promote that car for individuals who would be interested in purchasing that car at some point within the next year or so. And we fully expect to get a lot more than we put into this program for that car. And that money will then go back into each of these programs at both of these schools. We figured this was an initiative that we could not just do on a district level, we had to do it at both of our high schools. And, as I say, we're also looking to potentially expand our automotive programs in conjunction, again, with Dutchess Community College, which is right down the street here. We're very fortunate in Wappingers. We have the DCC Fishkill campus, we have the DCC Airport campus. We will continue to work and partner with Dutchess Community College, Dutchess BOCES, as well as all of our local municipalities to work together to provide the necessary skills and training that our students need to be successful. K-12 education needs to be an important piece in the workforce development of our region. We have the students. We have 10,500 students in this school district. The businesses have said, through my work with the Chamber of Commerce, we're looking for people. We can't find people. We have them here. We need to work together to make it happen, and we will. Let's talk a little bit about career and technical education. We have doubled the number of individuals that we are now sending to BOCES for career and technical education. Obviously, those are programs that we do not offer. And we have an individual who is directly responsible for being a career and technical school counselor. Their responsibility is to work with those individuals who are not going on to college to prepare them to go into a career, whether that be establishing a business education partnership, whether it's making sure they have the proper training, whether it's showing our employees the type of students that we have and the high quality of our students. Because our students not only compete with individuals in this school district or this region, but they're competing with people throughout the world. So we're going to add another career counselor. So now we will have two that will work between both John Jay High School, Roy C. Ketchum High School, and Orchard View Alternative High School. One of the the areas that continues to be a priority within our district is special education. We need to provide our students with the services that they need and deserve. I can tell you that those needs have increased by about 6% over the last 3 years. Our special education enrollment is growing. I expect it to continue to grow. So one of the things that we've done at the elementary level is we currently have 2 types of course trajectories outside of a traditional resource room. And that would either be an integrated co-taught class or a self-contained class. We think we need to do more. We think we need a third alternative. We're now going to do an integrated co-taught plus class, which will be a new class at the elementary schools, and that will involve students with emotional and behavioral challenges that interfere not only with their success in the classroom, but the teacher's ability to communicate the content in a timely fashion. This student ratio in this class will be 6-to-1. This is virtually unheard of. It's something that we're bringing in. It's something that we believe is going to work. We can no longer maintain or be happy with maintaining the status quo. We need to get better. We need to provide more services because society, as we all know, and the needs have changed, in particular within the last 3 to 5 years. Out-of-district programs, it's quite an expense. It's a necessary expense. We are mandated to provide students with services per their IEP. We can't always provide those services in our school district, although we would like to, but we simply don't have the means to do that right now, which means that we need to take them to other areas as far as Sullivan County and also into Westchester County. That's something that we take very, very seriously. We certainly don't want those students on a bus for a long period of time. And we're looking to potentially bring as much of that in-house in our district as we can. Because one of the things that we've heard is that students that live in the Wappinger Central School District, they want to go to school in the Wappinger Central School District. They don't want to necessarily have to be bused somewhere else. So that's another priority that we have. Please bear with me. I continue to hit this button. There we are. So as I mentioned before, the top priority of our school district is the safety and security of our staff and students. Without a doubt, if you don't have a safe environment, no one is going to reach their highest potential. To my knowledge, there are very few, if any, school districts throughout New York State that provide uniformed local law enforcement officers in their elementary buildings for at least half of the school day. We do that in Wappingers. We're going to continue to do that in this budget. It's something that our community has identified as a priority. In addition, we have school resource officers from the Dutchess County Sheriff's Office at Wappingers Junior High School and Roy C. Ketchum. And we also have school resource officers from the Town of Fishkill Police Department that are assigned to Van Wyck Junior High School and John Jay High School throughout the day. We're looking at adding potentially 3 school safety officers at all 3 of our high schools, definitely 1 at Jay, definitely 1 at Ketchum, and potentially 1 at Orchard View Alternative High School. And you know, one of the things that we've noticed is a tremendous increase in the amount of students that are participating in our activities. You know, I believe that success is infectious. When people participate in activities that promote their self-worth, they feel better about themselves, they're more involved, and they also tend to do better academically. So in that vein, we have added one additional athletic trainer who will not necessarily just work with athletics, but they'll work with any of the extracurricular offerings that we have, which run from the end of the school day until very, very late in the evening. Infrastructure. I sent out a notice to our community a few months ago. Unfortunately, we had 3 school disruptions that were due to infrastructure issues. That can't happen. It's unacceptable. We had one that required a delay because of a heating issue. We had another one that required an early dismissal because of a septic issue. And then we had another one where we totally needed to close because of a gas issue. I can say that none of these were related to any of the work that was done by our facilities and operations staff. They've done a tremendous job. We have passed capital projects over the years to improve the high-ticket items in our district. But some of the smaller ticket items, since our newest building was built in 1968, have seen their time. And we no longer can continue with Band-Aid repairs. We've actually got to put some money into those pipes and other conduits. And I have asked the board, and the board is in agreement, that we will take $2 million worth of fund balance outside of the tax levy that will be utilized to do just that. Now let's see if I can go back.
There you go.
Very good. You know, we talked about mental health and wellness being a priority. It continues to be a priority. I'd like to thank Dr. Cardwell and Mr. Zip, 2 members of the district office senior staff who have worked along with me in applying for a grant through Governor Hochul's office. And I am very proud to announce that we received $2.5 million from Governor Hochul's office to utilize over the next 2 years to expand and support the practices that we've currently put in place to promote mental health and wellness in all of our schools. This will not only allow those mental health professionals to react to situations, but it will also give them the opportunity to be proactive, to develop those positive relationships with students and staff, and if they see that a student may need assistance, respond right away before something develops into something of a larger magnitude. So we will be hiring additional school psychologists and school social workers in addition to the 12 that we've hired over the last 2 years. I think the governor has recognized our commitment to mental health and wellness and sees what is in place here and wants to certainly add to that and support our efforts because we've identified it as a priority. So let's talk about numbers. I mentioned before, we're all paying more for pretty much everything. The consumer price index at the time that this budget was developed was 4.12%. Since CPI exceeds 2%, the district will utilize 2% in the tax cap formula. So if you do the tax cap calculation as to the maximum allowable tax levy increase that this school district could impose on our taxpayers that would require a majority plus 1 vote, that would be 4.65%. I believe, the senior staff believes, and the board believes that number is too high. We had to work to get that number down to something more manageable. So we did. For the 3rd consecutive year, our budget is coming in under the maximum amount allowable by the tax cap. It's a reduction from the maximum allowable tax cap levy increase of 1.39%, which brings that increase to 3.26%. So how are we able to do this? I need to thank the governor and all of our elected officials throughout New York State in the Assembly and the Senate for going to bat for our school district and our communities. Some districts lost money in the governor's proposal, and then they still lost money after the proposal was approved by the legislature in the Senate. not Wappingers. We got more money. We got almost $100 million from New York State, which allows us, again, to lower the tax levy. So I need to say thank you there to all involved. So, our budgets have never pierced the tax cap, and for the third consecutive year, as I mentioned, will be below. So let's take a look at the proposed budgets over the last 5 years. 2021, the budget was 3.64%, which went right up to the tax cap. 21-22, 2.49 went right up to the tax cap. We were able to provide some relief based upon those additional COVID monies that we received in 22-23 and 23-24. So 22-23, we were at 0.83. 23-24, we were at 1.67. Now we're at 3.26. Is it a number that I like? No. But is it a number that we have to utilize in today's environment based upon what we need to provide our students without dramatically changing the face of this school district? Absolutely. So let's take a look at the numbers. If you'll see there, the tax levy from last year to this year has gone up $6 million. But the budget has gone up $18 million. So the budget has increased by 6.53%. And that is again due to the money that we've received from New York State, some of the competitive grants that we have been given, and we will continue to work in whatever way possible to identify alternate sources of funding our schools that do not fall on the backs of our taxpayers. Absolutely. We will continue to do that. What's that? Give me some time, my friend. So, let's talk about $18 million in the increased budget to budget. You want to know where that goes? It goes pretty quick. $18 million, the Special Education Initiative. That's $5.9 million. Transportation Department. We are working, as I stated before, to have all of our students driven to and from school by Wappinger Central School District employees. That has not been the case for a number of years, 20 plus years. We're moving in that direction because we believe that it's that important that our employees drive our students and that we don't have to subcontract those services. Capital projects. Some have been approved over the last couple of years. The interest is due, $4.1 million. Contractual obligations, programs, and services, that's $7.5 million. So there's your $18.7 million. Let's go to the bus purchase. This is different than what has been done in the past. The Wappinger Central School District, as long as I've been here, has always had a bus replacement proposition. And basically what that is buses age out. It's time for them to retire. 120,000 miles, 11 years, they're taken off the road. We replace those buses with new buses. This year, in addition to replacing those buses that need to go, in order to increase our fleet and meet the mandates that we are required in regards to transportation, we are looking to purchase 15 vehicles to add to our fleet. We currently have the largest district-owned transportation fleet in New York State. The 8 school districts that are larger than us, they subcontract all of their busing out. We want to continue to provide that service within our district from our employees. So, factors to consider when you're replacing vehicles. Obviously, you've got shifting enrollment. We have an increase in small vehicle needs. The student needs, the mandates, the requirements, compliance with New York State. The safety and the age of the fleet, obviously, we have to have safe buses that pass DOT inspection. That's vital for safety. And we need to be fiscally diligent by keeping our vehicle maintenance costs stable. Because you know with a vehicle, if you don't take care of it, if you don't take it in for preventative maintenance, it's going to break down a lot earlier, and when it does, you're not going to be able to use it, and it's going to impact your ability to get somewhere or our ability to transport our students. So, again, we're looking to retire 8 large buses, average mileage 120,000, model year 2013, 11 years, and add 15 vans. This will address the shifting enrollment as well as the ever-changing and evolving student needs. I see I'm going to have to go through this line by line. So, 23 vehicles, 8 diesel passengers buses, 15 gasoline passenger vans, 23 vehicles, 2.668. I'll take one moment to talk about electric vehicles. I think we can all agree that moving to electric vehicles is a good thing. However, we're not ready for it right now. We don't want to build the airplane while the airplane is in the air. We don't have the infrastructure to accommodate it from a school district perspective. So we are continuing, at least for the foreseeable future, to purchase buses that are diesel and gasoline. So what happens if this budget does not pass? Board has 3 choices. They can adopt a contingency budget, they can put the same budget up again, or they can vote a revised budget. What I can tell you is if this budget is defeated, it will mean that we will have to go in and eliminate $14 million worth of programs and services. What will that look like? Well, universal pre-kindergarten, in-district classroom offering reductions, we'd have to cut 7 classrooms. We'd have to reduce personnel by 73, 42 involved in programmatic positions, administrative positions, support staff positions, reductions in elementary academic enrichment. We know that the foundation of learning starts in the elementary school, and if you're not providing enrichment opportunities in the elementary school, those students are going to be further and further behind every year. We're looking at the Winter Circle Project, P-TECH, occupational education, district-wide professional development supplies, career and technical education slots. We just talked about that, how important that is. District-level building project work, reductions in funding for administrative supplies, investigative services, and wireless microphones at the high school level and transportation. You know, our students work so diligently. They spend a lot of time in putting on what many would agree are Broadway productions at our high schools. They're phenomenal. It's irritating to many when the equipment that they work with does not function properly and has a negative impact on their performance. I, as superintendent, feel that that needs to be addressed. That's something that's important. We're here to say that we support all of our students. We need to do what we say. Elimination of funding for chaperones, intramurals, athletics, and interscholastic. So when you're talking about elimination of funding for chaperones, that's safety. When you're talking about intramurals and athletics and interscholastics, that's opportunities for students, which I think we can all agree are extremely important now more than ever. So, if you'd like to learn more, go to our website for the polling locations and other voter information, and go to our budget page, view presentations, see the last 10 years' budgets you can compare and contrast. Community forum next Monday night at John Jay at 5:30. The following Monday at 5 at the Roy C. Ketchum Library is the state mandated public hearing. Any comments or questions, please utilize budget@wcsdny.org. It has been active since, I believe, November. And of course, we welcome any public comment at Board of Education meetings or the mandatory public hearing. How do you vote in the school election? Well, in person, Tuesday, May the 21st, 7:30 a.m. to 9 p.m., your designated poll site. You can also vote by absentee ballot if you meet a certain criteria. And now we have early mail ballot. That's available to any registered voter, not an option to vote early at a physical polling location. The ballot either needs to be mailed or dropped off at the district office. Applications for absentee and early mail ballots are available online by contacting the district clerk, alberta.pedro@wcsdny.org, 845-298-5000, 40145. And you've seen the theme at the bottom of every one of these slides. The goal here is to maximize the resources that we have to benefit our schools and community. And with that, I want to thank you. I want to thank those in attendance this evening for being here. I really want to thank Supervisor Albra, Councilmember Forum, Councilmember Rye, and Councilmember Totino. It's been a pleasure, and again, I thank you for the opportunity.
Always
And I
happy.
apologize for some of the confusion here with accelerating the movement of the slides. So I probably went over my time, and I apologize. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Okay. Our next presentation, ID number 9319, will be a presentation from the Fishkill Veterans Committee. Mr. Virgil and your team, get everybody up here. It's a lot of work for all of them. They should be recognized too. Virgil, get you guys up here.
Nice. Great. It's going to be a pretty tough act to follow after Dr. Baum's great presentation.
Thank you. You're
Thank
too
you.
kind. You're too kind.
Thank you. I just want to say thank you to the town board. Since the start of 2024, this has been an outstanding progression and collaboration between the town and the Veterans Committee. So I'd be remiss if I didn't point that out. And things have changed for the positive, and we're working in that direction. So thank you all. I kind of wanted to start this off by providing some input from our Veterans Committee as to several initiatives the town wants to do, and we understand that these are merely recommendations. You so decide as you need to. We hope that you would take our input as serious as possible. So, first and foremost, we start off with the private Sidney Schofield addition to the War Memorial and those KIA killed in action. Sidney Schofield, of course, dying during the Spanish-American War. Our committee wholeheartedly supports that, adding him and giving him the proper recognition here at the Town War Memorial. Even the addition of the plaque enlarging, it's absolutely stunning. I just gotta tell you, I mean, it's really good. So we definitely support that. Second is the town's War Memorial expansion. Obviously, this is going to require much more than just us saying, yes, do it. It is a beautiful memorial that's kind of hidden back there. And to most folks who drive by, unless they know this, or unless they visited, they probably would miss it. So we surely got to get some kind of attention grabber signage out there. So our committee wholeheartedly supports this, and we're prepared to assist with however we need to in trying to help make that happen. Which brings us to another point, the signage. One proposal from the town was to place the Armed Forces branch elements possibly under the recreation sign. I understood the logic behind it and some of the thinking. However, our committee, just on as these other issues, voted unanimously to not go with that. We think that any of the electronic signage there, depending on the number of events, would detract from the War Memorial itself. So we strongly support and are prepared to do legwork as necessary to help set up something a little separate, maybe bring the expansion as close as we can to Veterans Highway, Route 52 passing right by the town. Are there any questions about that?
No, I mean, you and I have chatted about that, and you know, it's a very good point. As the supervisor and I have been working on the 250th and Bailey Sword project, one of the things that I've worked on and kept everybody apprised of. Oops, I'll wait.
Your mic works,
You can
Brian.
talk.
It's okay, I mean,
Yeah, I can still hear you.
Okay.
okay, I mean,
So is exactly that. It is the Veterans Memorial is hidden back there. And
yes,
so as we, as a, you know, a board, work together and agree together, whole redesign the vegetation and everything else, and certainly signage, which I know I endorse the concept the supervisor had on that signage, but certainly we're interested in your input, the committee's input. And it's been buried back there. It needs to be brought to life, and it's a shame. But what's great about it, last word, is that there's parking right there. So we do have, you know, different ceremonies. You know, people can come see it. Hopefully that'll increase in the future.
thank you for the input. I mean, we're prepared to definitely offer some other proposals.
By all means. It should be said that the visualization that you had seen was created by myself in 2020 with the supervisor, and it was simply a toss this together as to how it might look so that the town board at the time could talk about ways that the war memorial could be visualized from the street level without necessarily increasing the amount of signage that's being placed on our frontage. I don't think it was ever a verbatim proposal as to that's how it should look, but rather just one of a number of possibilities that was quite easy to render on, you know, Photoshop.
No, and thank you for that context. I hope I didn't give off the impression that that was the one set in stone.
No.
It definitely wasn't. You know, we understood that. It's an attempt. And let's face it, you know, since 2015, another military branch has been added. So, you know, to incorporate all the elements. So we definitely support that. With that being said, I want to get to the final point here, or at least one of them, which is the Hometown Heroes banners. I think I can speak safely on behalf of my brothers back here, you know, and sisters that are a member of our committee, that we're more than happy at our involvement with the Hometown Heroes banners, and just cannot say enough thank you. With that said, as requested, we want to put together an invite. So if I could ask the esteemed gentleman back here to kind of come on up. We placed copies at each of your stations there to take a look. I mean, obviously this is still rough, but the idea is this is what would be some sort of mailer with the Hometown Hero banner itself and with the invite.
No, so when they come here, they would get both like this. So the poster would not be in a mailer.
Correct. It would not be in the mailer.
Yes.
This would be just these two items would be,
Like that when we have the ceremony.
yes, exactly.
Okay.
So we're more than tickled. I think they came out really nice.
Very nice.
I'd be curious as to your thoughts, Councilmember Totino.
I'm very impressed. Looks great. This is, you know, a continuation of what we started last year with Councilwoman Daniele, and I worked with her on that. We were very proud of what we were able to achieve, and it seems like the program's just getting bigger and better.
It is outstanding. I cannot tell you what positive feedback we've gotten. Amongst all of us, we've heard it. And as the vice chair, Chuck over here will tell you, they're here to keep us in line. So we're looking forward to the evolution of this, and we're really excited for the end of the month. So with that said, thank you with that.
So the ceremony will be here May 29th at 6 p.m. And we're gonna, once we get this done, we're gonna get some balloons and some cake and some beverages and stuff like that, and it'll be a nice celebration.
Well, you know, I just want to give a round of applause, because, I mean, that's exactly what we want. We think it's a great way to bring the town together, and it's just, I can't say enough.
I'm glad that it's a standalone ceremony and not, this year, not with the board, so you can have a board meeting. So it's just the focus is on the veterans, which is terrific. You know.
No, thank you. Thank everyone. I mean, we appreciate that. And on a final point, I've been approached, as other members of the committee have been approached by various veterans throughout the town. And I even was approached by Mayor Kathy Martin. And we just kind of thought we'd put this out here to the board about the prospect or possibility of getting the town to adopt and officially become a Purple Heart community.
Sure.
The village wants to work that way. We think it would be a great way to kind of unify, you know, we'll just make it one big Fishkill kind of Purple Heart community.
Is that work through the Purple Heart Museum across the river? How does that happen?
Well, you have a lot more independence as to how the town wants to proceed with it. We just kind of wanted to put this out here right now. We've got months to kind of work on it. It's just how you all decide as a town board as to how you want that to fit, but I think it would be a really great way to kind of pick up and run with the Hometown Heroes banners.
What does that entail, becoming a Purple Heart community? What does that mean?
It just means it's a designation that the town can set, signage, many of the other towns around here have it.
Mm-hmm.
It's not an extremely difficult lift. It's something where we could do a lot of the legwork. It's just the board has to be pleased with it and just say it, but it doesn't require.
No, I'm just curious what, you know, who would be against that? Just, I'm curious what that means as far as that designation.
The designation can come from even the board itself.
Mm-hmm.
All right, it's just, it's how the supervisor and board wish to make it. We'll provide some additional input, but I kind of at least wanted to put this idea out there. We thought it'd be good. So.
Let's get this Hometown Hero ceremony done, Sidney Schofield done, and then we'll talk about this.
Thank you, I appreciate it. And on a final note here, I'd be remiss if I didn't thank these individuals specifically with the committee here. Dan Wells, Charles Hogdert.
Well, just point out which one is what.
Yes. Mr. Wells.
Mr. Wells?
Mr. Hogdert.
Mr. Hodger.
Dr. Peter Koch, who's not here right now. I just want to thank them, and I want to thank you all for making the offices available for the phone calls and for the stuff going back and forth. And without these guys, it would have been more difficult.
Introduce the rest of the crew.
Excuse me. Then we have Charles, John Powell,
Bill Muller.
and Richard Manna.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Yep.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you all, right?
Okay. Oh, so next up is introduction of new employees. I don't think we have any this month, right? See any in there? Thank you, Dr. Bonk.
Thank
It's
you
an honor to
again.
see you again.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you for those in attendance. Thank you.
So next up is the privilege of the floor for anything relating to the town of Fishkill. Sir?
Good evening, Town Board. My name's Rich, resident of town for some 35 years. Greg knows that.
Yes, sir.
Probably so as everybody else. I just want to comment on the, what you want to propose to the town as far as going, hiring a full-time chief and hiring full-time officers. I have a problem with it, and I don't know what you're going to accomplish by hiring a full-time chief or full-time officer. I don't know what you think you're going to solve. As far as the chief goes, first of all, if you hire a full-time chief, he's going to have to come off the civil service list. Now, he's going to have a contract with the town that's on par with all the other full-time chiefs in the area. That's going to include his pay, his salary, his medical benefits, his personal leaves, and his vacation. That's a hell of a package. That's going to be an expense, a very big expense. Now, what you have now with Chief Dworkin, he's a part-time chief, but I bet anything that he doesn't put in part-time hours. I believe that man puts in a lot of time. Now, I know there's a little animosity between some members of the town board and the chief. I understand that. That's nature. That's human nature. But putting that aside, I think Chief Dworkin has done a very good job. I don't think a full-time chief can do any better than he, other than take a bigger salary with a benefit package that's going to be very expensive for the town. Now, let's go down to the officers. You suggested hiring a full-time officer one year, a full-time officer the next year. Again, what are you accomplishing? PBA is going to have to negotiate a separate contract for a full-time officer. The PBA contract now, the way it stands, is for part-time officers. No benefits involved with that. Basically, it's pay raise, it's salary and holiday pay and overtime pay, things like that. But with a full-time officer, that package, again, is going to include a salary that has to be compatible to the other agencies in the area. That includes the medical, as I just said about the chief, medical, sick time, vacation time, personal time. What is being accomplished by that? I don't see anything. Is it a manpower thing? Hiring a full-timer is not going to solve your manpower problems, because he's going to have to take his vacation time. He's going to take his sick leave when he's sick. He's going to call in a personal day here and there. And what happens when that happens? You're going to have to replace that officer. Who are you going to replace him with? You're going to have to call in a part-timer. So I really don't see the benefit of hiring full-time officers. This department was made on part-time officers, and they did a damn good job. And I'm proud to say I was one of them.
Yes, sir.
Although I don't know what a good job I did, but
Thank you for your service.
the officers did a damn good job, and I was proud to be a part of them. We handled everything soup to nuts, and what we couldn't handle, we called the state in to do their investigation. Maybe had whatever it was, a serious accident, they do their reconstruction, whatever it was. If it was beyond our scope, we called in the state or the sheriffs. Mostly when I worked, it was the state. But I don't see where that's going to solve any problem. Every police department in the country has manpower problems now. Not too many people want to go into law enforcement, and you can't blame them with the way things are nowadays. So they all have it. My suggestion is, or my opinion is, to hire part-time officers, if possible, sponsor them through the academy, have them sign an agreement, I don't know how legal it would be, that they would have to give the town maybe 3 years of service before they decided they wanted to go someplace else, if they did want to go someplace else. Also, maybe if you can pressure civil service to not hold you to the 20-hour work week, but do it on an overall yearly. I think it comes to 1040 hours for the whole year. I'm not sure if the math is right. But a lot of counties, their civil service has discretion to handle the way they want to handle that in their own way. In other words, what I'm saying is, some counties, you can work as many hours as you want, but once you get close to that 1040, you're capped. It's up to the officer to cut back so he doesn't go over. And if he does go over, there's a serious fine, I believe. But if civil service could be pressured to do that, or just asked to do that, remove the 20-hour-a-week cap. Most of the time, the 20-hour-a-week is going to be fine for an officer, but there will be times when you want extra details. For instance, the Hometown Heroes detail, where you needed guys to traffic. You could bring these guys in to work the detail, and not be concerned that they're going to go over their 20 hours a week. That really restricts them. Like I said, other counties do that. They don't hold you to the 20-hour-a-week rule. They'll hold the cap at the end of the year, but you can get to that cap any way you want. You want to work 60 hours a week, you work 60 hours a week. But I think you know what I'm saying. So basically, that's more or less. I wrote some notes down here, but that's basically it. Yep, I guess that's basically it. I don't think full-time, it's my humble opinion, is the way to go. Like I said, the department was built and raised on part-time officers, and we did a great job. We used to handle K-Fest. We all were at K-Fest. That was a hell of a detail to run. Hell of a detail. We had thousands of people there, and by the end of the night, they all were drunk. We handled the traffic outside. We handled the security inside. Every once in a while, we had an effect an arrest. But we did a good job, and it was run by part-time officers. Sergeant Hughes ran that detail for many years. God bless him, rest his soul. He did a great job. Part-timers did that. State police came in and assisted us a little bit because we needed some extras. But basically, it was a Town of Fishkill detail. I'm just saying that because don't underestimate part-time officers. They go through the same training as full-time officers. And that's my take on it. So I just thank you for listening to me. One other thing on the just to switch gears a little bit on the Hometown Heroes thing you're having on the 29th. Is that associated with the town board meeting?
No, the next town board meeting will be the 15th, and as was mentioned.
Standalone event.
Yeah.
Great,
So we could take our time and have.
Yeah, because I remember the one you had last year, which was a great event.
It was very good.
I watched it on television, but I felt it should have been left alone to honor these vets.
Yes.
And to give them their night.
Yeah, so we had like 95
Great.
last year, and this year I think we had
Fantastic.
115.
Okay. All right, thank you for your time, and I just
Thank you for
wanted to
coming
give you my
Thanks, Mr. Reese.
take on things. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Anybody else would like to speak about anything regarding the town of Fishkill? Mr. Malvarosa?
Bob Malfarosa, Town of Fishkill resident, 35 years, Town Planning Board. I just wanted to understand the property maintenance. I know that closed, and I just was thinking about it, but is that just addressing commercial or also residential
Everything.
properties?
Everything.
Residential also, right? Okay.
Yep.
Because a lot of people were kind of asking that question,
Yep.
and I didn't know what to tell them.
Residential too.
Okay, thank you.
Ms. LaGoy?
Hi, Ann LaGoy, resident, taxpayer, business person, volunteer. I actually have a couple of things. So the property maintenance, so we should see a cleanup of Duchess Mall any day now, huh? That was sarcasm, because I don't think we're going to see that for another 20 years. Okay, so I did want to talk about one of the presentations, the Wappinger Central School District presentation. And it's so impressive, like that's such a huge budget and there's so much to consider, and it's really, you know, they're doing a lot of really great things. But there are some concerns that I have. Over the last year and a half or so, I've become much more involved in marginalized groups and understanding where perhaps there was a lack of understanding before and really trying to put myself in the place of people who I hadn't necessarily grown up with or associated with. But there are certain things that hold really very true for me, and I think, everybody in this room. And I appreciated that Dr. Bonk specifically said they were hiring more psychologists and that the safety and security for all students and faculty was of utmost concern. Because since 2020, in March, specifically March of 2020, property of a gay student has been vandalized. A principal has received a death threat, and a local chapter of an anti-government extremist group called Moms for Liberty has called children who are members of the Gay Straight Alliance Club pedophiles and groomers. I myself have been called a groomer because of my association in helping people who might feel that their voice is not heard. It is pretty disgraceful, which leads me to the next point of freedom of speech is, of course, of utmost of concern to everybody. And there has been a book ban in the Wappinger Central School District. This same group, Moms for Liberty, is advocating for book bans of authors such as Toni Morrison, The Bluest Eye. I don't know if you've ever read that. John Steinbeck of Mice and Men, 1984. These are classics that everybody up here has probably either read or grown up with. Just because one or two parents are concerned that their children will get their hands on a book that they don't agree with.
I'm sorry, did they ban 1984?
No. That's not, that's on their list. This group, it's a local chapter.
Okay, no, for a second I was afraid that there were actually
they're
curriculum
advocating for
books
that.
being taken out of
They
curriculum.
are pushing for that. So, this isn't just, one of the observations that I've really made in the last year and a half is it's so easy to call trans, gay, bi kids the others. They're not me, so they're the other. And I think that when that position is taken, it becomes much easier for rights to be taken away, for bullying to happen, and for very concerning behaviors to happen. So I was very happy to hear Dr. Bonk, who I know has received letters of concern from parents. They have spoken up at school board meetings, asking for something to be done about the bullying and the homophobia against non-conforming kids. So I'm sorry that he left the meeting already, and I'm sorry I don't have the full board's attention. I'll wait.
Ms. Legault, would you like to go back and reiterate what you were just saying?
Well, I didn't write it down, that was kind of ad-libbing, but I am, I know that Dr. Bonk has received letters. People have spoken out at school board meetings that something be done about bullying and homophobia against non-conforming kids. So I am disappointed that Dr. Bonk had left. I understand that, he's not going to stay for the whole meeting, but, I do hope that he stays true to his word that psychologists and counselors will be added to the school district. And I would like to see, as was mentioned at the last school board meeting, that programs start being put into place so that we stop looking at others as others and just plain human beings that deserve to learn. They deserve to, all of us, have access to information and books. It is very disturbing that book banning is coming to a school district right near us. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Legault. Councilwoman?
Good evening. Louise Daniele, legal resident of Fishkill for over 30 years and a taxpayer. I really didn't want to come tonight, but looking at the packet, I think that it's really non-transparent, and 11 of the 15 discussions have no documentation whatsoever, just one-line sentences. A discussion about billboard signs, money for a water study, accessory apartments, town policy on downstate, rent stabilization, good cause eviction law, updating the housing law, declaring, easement for 90 Magnolia, term limits, even year elections, sale of 81 Route 82. There's nothing that goes with it. You need to have documentation to go with it so people at home can actually read it before they come and see if they want to talk about it and try and understand it. Thank you to the highway superintendent who actually attached information to the public so that the public can read what his items on here were about. When nothing's attached to explain it beforehand, it gives the appearance that items are already discussed and/or possibly decided without public input. So please do better in the future regarding agenda packets.
I agree with you. Thank you. Anybody else?
Hi. Should we do introductions, or does everybody know who we are?
No, introduce who you are and where you live.
Melissa and Eddie Rodriguez, 4 Magnolia Drive, Wappingers Falls. Well, Fishkill, I guess. We came with our little speech, as we've done many times before, regarding our pool and solar permit, but to our shock, we're on your agenda. Why would we be on your agenda when we don't know we're on your agenda? Do you not send letters to homeowners when you're actually going to have a meeting discussing taking part of their property?
Mr. Gale, this was mailed to them too, right?
I believe that a letter was sent to you regarding this matter, wasn't it?
You did not
By
send us a
email.
letter at all letting us know we were on your
I sent you a
agenda.
letter regarding your fence, did I not?
You sent us a letter regarding a fence. Nowhere in that letter does it tell us that we would be on your agenda tonight. So if we hadn't happened to show up, as we have many times before, to read another speech to be nodded at and ignored, we would have had no clue you guys were sitting here discussing our property that we purchased and paid for and own.
The town board asked me to reach out to you to see if we can resolve the fence issue. I believe tonight you put on the agenda for me to report back to the board as to whether I'd heard back from you or not. I have not heard back from you. That's probably as far as the discussion would have gone. Possibly they would have asked me what the
My
minutes-
question to you, which I just asked, is why was I not informed we were on an agenda? That's my question. The only answer I'm looking for is an answer that answers that question.
There's no legal requirement to provide you with notice the board is going to discuss.
How about a
this matter.
courtesy one? Oh, a head shrug, that's some courtesy.
You asked me, I told you. What do you want?
Okay, so here we go. June 22nd, 2022, our pool permit was opened here at your town building department. On November 30th, 2022, it was granted verbally by Joel Petrus in our yard, and we were assured we would receive the certificate of compliance within a few days. Today is 1 year and 6 months later, and our pool permit is still open. We have been asking nonstop for this pool permit to be closed, and have never received one documentation explaining to us why this pool permit is not closed. Not one piece of paper, not one snail mail, not an email, not a balloon with a string attached to it tied to my mailbox. Never a response. We have complied with every single requirement in 515 days. Your building department appears to be incapable of completing a very simple task, closing a pool permit which has been in compliance. Dude, I don't know why you're shaking your head. I'm not even done speaking.
Because you know you're wrong. You
What?
know you're wrong.
How are we wrong?
Listen, we're not going to debate anything. You're here to speak about town items. Feel free to speak about town items.
So
please.
why is the building department incapable of completing a task? Why, we ask. I'm doing the sarcastic thing. I've heard it a lot tonight. Because this board is constantly turning a blind eye to the building department's incompetence. Every board member here is aware that we've been coming for over a year, sent 50 to 60 emails, which all go ignored. We just emailed you 2 weeks ago. You don't even have the courtesy of writing back, I'll work on it. Smiley face, how are you? You just ignore us. Like we are not town residents, like we're not paying $15,000 a year in taxes, like we're not decent people, like we're not good citizens, like we're just capable of being ignored. We have been to your office 35 personal visits, to the supervisor's office, and every single one ends in, what would you call it? Oh, it's blackmail. It's if you discuss the fence with us, if you discuss an easement with us, we will then close your pool. That's what you say every time we come. Over 100 phone calls have literally gone into us asking this to be remedied with every single one of you. Now I find myself before you almost a year to the day asking why another summer is starting and we have no certificate of compliance for a pool. Again, nothing telling us why we have no certificate of compliance. To my utter dismay, I find myself without my pool closed, and now another permit has been submitted on behalf of our solar company on April 19, 2024, which is being completely ignored. My husband has stopped in twice, and the building department has said they know nothing about this permit. But we know it was submitted on April 19, 2024. We did the same thing last year with the first solar permit, and after 15 days of arguing back and forth and coming here, suddenly the permit was found and it was issued. It was lost under a pile of papers, I believe. We waited 47 years, both of us, 47 years to own our own home. We dealt with landlord after landlord, and we really hoped when we purchased our first piece of property and built our own home, we wouldn't be dealing with the tyranny that we're dealing with this town. It's just not stopping. The way this family has been treated by this building department is reprehensible. While I doubt you'll do anything besides nod your head or give me a bunch of false promises, I'm here to put you all on notice as town residents that are in full compliance and have not been shown that we're not in full compliance. I think that's an important part of my speech. And pay our taxes on time. I expect my pool permit and my solar permit to both be closed and granted immediately. Not when it's good for you guys, not in 6 months, not in a year when the lawyer's gonna finally send the letter that I have 20 sentences about that you were never gonna do. Immediately. The pool permit needs to be closed, or we need to be told while it's not, and our solar permit needs to be granted. That's money out of our pocket we're paying to Central Hudson that we shouldn't be paying. And I guess we'll sit around and listen to the agenda that we didn't know anything about. Come on, you guys talk back to everybody else. Nobody wants to talk back to me?
Oh, I do.
Please do.
So, I didn't get a call from you, but I've heard the issues before, and I mean, how do we resolve this? I'd like to know that myself.
I don't know. I personally have cell phone bills of over 70 phone calls between me and Mr. Foreman. Can't even tell you how many between me and Carmine to go nowhere.
Okay. Well, I don't know how do we resolve this, because I regret that you're in this position. I
bet you can imagine I regret it.
What can we do?
Well, I'm assuming that when it gets to the discussion part, we'll hear from the town attorney, because he did say he sent you a letter, and I don't know where we are from there.
John, you remember when you knocked on my door in
Yep.
October on a Sunday at 2 p.m. when you were campaigning?
Yep.
When did you tell me that attorney letter was coming to me? Well, I had asked you how come it didn't come in July, like you said, and you had given me a speech about how a lot had happened, but I was going to get it that week. That was October. You told my husband 96 days ago to please leave your office because the letter would be coming to us within 14 days. So my question is there zero accountability for a bunch of grown men in ties sitting up there and just lying every day? My husband works 76 hours a week, and when he gets a day off, the first thing he does is get dressed and come to the town of Fishkill. For 19 months, he spends more time visiting you guys on his days off than he does at home. For what? For what?
Well, I don't understand why this has been dragging on. I really...
Well, maybe you should have been the one they asked me to speak to a year ago.
Can I just ask rhetorically the board? I'm not going to get an argument with you.
It's fine.
I feel your pain, and
Thank
I don't
you.
understand myself. I have been not in this loop. I've heard you up here before. Actions that have been taken I'm not privy to, but I certainly, I don't understand why we can't resolve this. I just don't.
We'll discuss it when it gets to the agenda item.
Okay.
Thank you, Melissa, for coming. Oh, you're welcome, each one of you. I'll sit down. You like my shoes? Thanks.
Anybody else like to speak? All right. Next up is discussion of modernization of billboard signs. We have...
Are we doing?
I apologize. I missed something?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, liaison.
Greg, go first.
Okay. Well, First, I'd like to lead off, New York State has a budget. We spent a lot of time working on that.
So tell the citizens who you work for.
I am the communications director for the New York State Senate Majority Leader under Stuart Cousins. My office is down in Yonkers. I don't work up in Albany. I work within the district specifically. But it was wonderful to hear Dr. Bonk give his presentation about the Wappinger School District budget. As he alluded to, the governor's proposal for the state budget for this year would have removed certain components of the foundation aid formula, which calculates how much state funding school districts receive. It would have resulted in 337 districts across the state, that's nearly half of total school districts, losing funding by the elimination of hold harmless, which is a basic principle that from year to year, the amount of funding that you receive from the state will not decrease without cause. And that was a non-starter for our office. It was not going to be possible to negotiate a budget which would cause any foundation aid changes. The Assembly was very much of the same mind, and ultimately, in addition to restoring all of those funds which would have been cut under the governor's budget, as Dr. Bonk alluded to, $934 million were added, $934 million were added to foundation aid across the state, meaning that districts such as Wappinger and other districts in New York are going to be receiving more state funding. I'd like to applaud the Wappinger School District. It's unfortunate that they had to leave, but I wish to applaud them for, one, the presentation, and two, what appears to be a very well thought and responsibly constructed budget, trying to utilize additional state funding to the extent possible to avoid unnecessary increases to the tax levy while increasing the budget to the full extent possible. So that is very good. I'd also just like to highlight something which will be of, I think, particular interest to us here in Fishkill, just given the amount of retail shopping that takes place in our town. Some provisions which were included in the budget deal with retail theft. There is a new law on the books in the state of New York which pertains to larceny aggregation. Typically, as we have seen in the past, if you walk into a store and you steal $500 worth of merchandise, you are guilty of petty larceny. And if you are given probation or serve a little time in jail or issued a fine, and then you go back to the store and you steal $500 of merchandise, you are guilty of petty larceny. And so it continues. This will allow prosecutors, police departments who are able to determine that a collective total of goods or merchandise that are stolen during, whether it be shoplifting or other types of larceny, the cumulative amount exceeds the threshold for grand larceny. They can now elevate the charge that the perpetrator would receive from a misdemeanor charge to a felony charge. That will certainly disincentivize individuals who have particular recidivism when it comes to shoplifting and other types of retail theft crimes. Additionally, it will keep those individuals off the street who continue to perpetuate that, because while misdemeanors certainly offer a range of sentences and punishments through the court system, felonies almost always result in prison time, which hopefully will reduce the number of occurrences of that. And when we see people doing that, those people will be taken off the streets and kept there for a longer time, meaning that it's a safer shopping experience for people who are frequenting stores, and our local businesses won't be losing money through theft as much. Additionally, in terms of protecting retail workers, they have established, the state through the budget process established a new felony for assault on a retail worker. So if an individual were to become physically violent, commit an act of assault against a person who is in the course of performing their work as an employee in a retail establishment, that is now its own type of felony. It will be a Class E felony. And again, that should disincentivize people who are prone to either losing their temper or acting in an aggressive or intimidating manner towards retail employees from doing so. And it gives, again, our criminal justice professionals, our district attorneys, our police departments, a better avenue of prosecution for that. And then lastly, there is a new tax incentive for local businesses who can receive tax credits through the state for the purchase of certain security measures, anti-theft measures for their premises. The last thing which I'd like to highlight from the budget is a very important bit. regarding the crackdown on illegal cannabis dispensaries. As we know, in the state of New York, the sale of cannabis is now legal for establishments who have proper licensing and permitting. Unfortunately, there are a number of establishments which do not have those required documents and are still selling cannabis. Prior to this budget being enacted, it would be impossible for a police department to cease operations at that enterprise independently. They would need to go through the town's building department, and it would need to be shuttered by the building department for zoning violations. Now, this empowers local law enforcement to take action directly to, padlock facilities, establishments which are found to be selling cannabis without the proper licensing, which will go a distance to keeping our community safe and create a better retail environment for those businesses which go through the proper process of obtaining a license and doing all of the things that are necessary to be a responsible seller of cannabis products to adults. Additionally, there are also penalties that can be enforced for the sale or the advertising of cannabis projects to anyone under the legal age of purchase. I just want to touch on a couple of things. I understand that the work has begun on the recreation roof project. Just want to give a big thumbs up to everyone involved on that. Thumbs up to Jay and everybody at the rec department for the adjustments that they're making through their programming and everything logistically while this project goes on. I understand it's going to take about 2-3 months to complete, and we're all looking forward to that being done. We know that that's been an issue that's been going on for way too long. Also hearing, and we heard from our highway superintendent, Carmine Isvan, at our last meeting about our park upgrades that are planned for this year. We understand that the resurfacing of the tennis and basketball courts at Gearing Park are now underway, and they're going to be doing the parking lot resurfacing at Gearing and at Doug Phillips, along with some pickleball courts over at Doug Phillips, if I'm remembering correctly. We're looking forward to the Recreation Summer Camp, which is coming up in the summertime. As a very young child, I was a camper. That is, in fact, how I met our lovely town clerk. I was about 4.5 years old, and I'm told I was thoroughly annoying. And for that, I'm sorry. No, you didn't. Others have. No, indeed. No. To be serious, I would just like to point out that there have been some recent recreation department events. I understand that they went to the Hunterdon Playhouse to see the Beehive, the 60s musical, with the seniors. I know that sign-ups to go to Resorts World Casino begin tomorrow. That's expected to go very quickly. Residents can sign up at the rec center in person beginning at 9:30, and non-residents who are interested can begin signing up at 12:30. And of course, the Cinco de Mayo party will be on Tuesday, May 7th. That's next Tuesday. I know that my mom is going to that and is looking forward to it. I've been to these in the past. I've assisted Councilwoman Daniele, who at the time was often volunteering there, and I've attended with Supervisor Albert, who likes to stop in and say hello. They're always great events, and I'm looking forward to hearing how this one goes since I cannot be there in person. Just another friendly reminder that the Verplank Garden Club Mother's Day plant sale will be taking place here at Town Hall in the community room or in the parking lot. I think that's weather dependent. Thank you. And that will be on Saturday, May 11th at 9 a.m. And I'm looking forward very much to being here for that and picking up some plants from my mother's garden for Mother's Day. That's all I have. John?
Okay. Thank you for everybody for attending and watching. Thursday, April 18th, I attended the grand opening of the MJ Engineering company that moved into Fishkill. They are also a new vendor for the town, located a couple doors down. Friday the 19th, attended the annual dinner for Roundabout Fire District with my colleagues. On Saturday, April 20th, attended the opening day for Fishkill Little League. Wednesday, April 24th, donated some blood to the at the Glenham Elementary School during their blood drive. Saturday, April 27th, attended and helped raise some money for the annual Walk for Autism, which was at James Baird State Park. And on Sunday, April 28th, while walking around at the Stormville Flea Market, ran into none other than Fishkill's very own Eddie Colon, who was raising awareness and money for the Fishkill Food Pantry.
Excellent.
Thank you, Eddie. I'm done.
Brian?
Okay, not in sequential order, but I want to start off with just singing the praises of Debbie Colonna and her work for the new webpage. For 2 years, I was saying, we got to update it, we got to update it, got to update it. And then Ozzy and I got together, we got the people from the county office that do it for the towns, and we thought this might be the avenue to go. But Debbie Colonna came in and said, no, we actually have a resource right now, and it will save you thousands of dollars. And the look is as appealing as the other towns where we were sort of not mimicking, but using for guidance. I'm extremely proud of that effort between myself, the supervisor, everybody on the board supporting it, and certainly Debbie, and Joe coordinating. So we appreciate that. And there's going to be more updates, of course, going along, but it's just really taking shape, and it's been needed. Also attended the MJ Engineering Open. Attended their own about fire district dinner. Was that was also recent. Sometimes this runs together for me. Fishkill Little League did that. That was a great opening. There's no doubt about it. Also last Saturday attended Chelsea Fire District. They had an open house recruiting more volunteers, and unfortunately that's the saga of all districts, is there's a lack of participation in volunteerism. And I certainly encourage that for everybody to please look at your local firehouse, stop in, and see of a way that you can volunteer and participate. It's for the good of the community, and you know in your heart you want to do that. That's all I got.
Okay, thank you. Thanks to Joe and to Debbie for the website. Saved probably about $25,000, $35,000 doing this in-house.
Well done.
I'm going to leave what I'm going to say about the police in my State of the Town in the first meeting of June. It'll explain why I think we need a full-time chief and begin to hire full-time police officers. I am not against part-time officers. In fact, we did hire a young cadet. We sent him through the police academy. He graduated, and shortly after he was hired as a state trooper. So I support that stuff, but these kids are not going to stay here if it's not a full-time job. And like I said, I'll elaborate further in my State of the Town address. So next up is discussion number 1.
Can I compliment you on something?
What?
You surprised you, didn't I? You and Cedar Beacon Mayor, I can never say Kariakou, supporting the Fjord Trail project. I see that in the paper, and I do too. And so I'm glad to have seen that.
Thank you, sir. All right, so next up is the modernization of billboard signs. So what we have is on Route 9 south of McDonald's, there's one electronic billboard sign, and the same guy owns the one literally in the opposite direction, but on the same side of the road, and he was putting another electronic sign. From what the building inspector says, the state gives him approval, and then we just issued a building permit. Now the question is, do we let that happen throughout the rest of the town, Brian? What are your thoughts here?
That is the question that's been posed by me, why I wanted to have this discussion. I mean, I don't have a problem where these big signs are now, where they're located. It's just, how is it, and I posed this to Mr. Gaba, how is it that we could have the right of refusal if they want to put one in a location that doesn't necessarily fit, with the aesthetic of that space, and I don't know where all these billboards are. I don't have a map of them, but it would be nice to.
You got the ones on 9, and then you have 4 just south of the new self-storage on Route 52. Between this light and the next light on Red Schoolhouse Road, there's 4. And then I think there's maybe 2, no more than 3, up by Dutchess Park.
And there's
they're all ready to follow. They're not.
Are they all going electric?
Yeah. No.
Well, we don't know.
No, we don't know. So this is the question. Can we stop someone from doing an electric sign?
Well, billboards are actually a prohibited use in the town, with the exception of billboards that are pre-existing and in the P1, that's the industrial district. Any billboard outside of that would be a legal non-conforming use billboard. And if they've discontinued use of it, they have to take it down. In terms of electrifying it, I've spoken with your building inspector, and his position is that as long as they don't increase the size of the billboard, electrifying it does not change the use. It's still a billboard. So existing billboards, if they're in the P1, and they can get a highway permit, you run the risk of them being electrified and going forward that way. No new billboards can be put up outside of.
That's the way I read that.
Even
No
in the
more.
P1. They can't
They're,
be
they're
put up.
done. Any new billboards are done.
They're done.
Good.
So let's go back to the pre-existing billboards.
Right. Can we have oversight, and can we say, well, actually, yeah, you can update it, make it look nice, but we don't necessarily like the neon right here in this neighborhood, you know, or on this, like, on 52 on the way to Nimham, there's a billboard right there, and I don't know that that would necessarily look great, you know?
Well,
just thinking out loud.
Let me say two things about that. The first is you have a provision in your code that if the existing billboard is not in the P1 district, you can require it to end. You have to send notice and give them time. Now, there are some issues with that, and we can get into that if there's a particular billboard that you want to get rid of. The other thing you could do would be to amend the code to provide that they can't be electrified if they're pre-existing. Right now, you don't allow some exceptions, weather and time and things like that.
Can we do something subject to the town board approval? Because I see there's 4 down here. There might be 2 houses that are impacted.
Yeah, you can.
Because he's got 4 signs, but you could probably put 2 electric signs instead.
I would look for us
Mr. Malvarosa.
Yeah.
I would look for us to have
We
that,
got a planning board member here.
that
Yeah.
look.
If they can't put any new ones up, they did, because they put one going south,
Yeah,
right after the Duchess Mall.
On that
Took down
side.
trees, which
Yes.
we have a big thing about all the time. Cleared out trees on the other side, which I don't know if they've pulled or found out if that's okay with our tree ordinance. And they actually had the old billboard going north and the new one. I think they took down possibly the old billboard just recently. I have people that are looking, and going back and forth. And just last night, we were at a county and thing about light pollution and billboards and distractions and everything else. You know, I don't know how this
Was
all
it in a
went
P1
through.
district?
nonsense.
Was it in a P1 district? A P1 zoning district? Was
I
it
don't
in a
know.
P1?
I don't think so.
Then I don't know how it got
No,
approved, because,
I'm just saying, you know, that's a big concern about, you know, lighting and distractions when you're driving, you know, because they're LED, I think these will be LED lit signs. So, you know,
I just think it's important that if we can write something that says we would like to be in the loop when there's a desire to change it, so, you know, we can.
do you want to go to the town board, or do you want to go to the planning board?
What do you think? I think, you know,
Mr. Valverosa, you want to hear about billboards? You want to hear about billboards?
at the planning?
Just hold on a second. We were just discussing, should it be a board decision or a planning board decision?
I think it's both.
Okay.
It's, you know, when I started seeing the trees being taken down where the existing billboard was.
I know exactly what it is.
I was just surprised that they didn't have to come before us, but I guess they must have come.
They get the state permit first, and they just get a
Well, I
permit
heard there
here.
was something with the state, but then I did talk to John Cantor last night, and he was saying that theoretically, we do have a right to, I guess, possibly speak on it and have observations of why, you know, they're putting the billboard there if they're not supposed to be.
For a new billboard, it should go to you. It should go to the planning board. An existing billboard, no.
Non-existing, that's fine, and I understand if you want to modernize the lighting that was there, because the old billboards were like pasted, you know, whatever, with
Poster.
uplighting going up against the billboard. Well, they didn't do that, I think they had taken down now the old billboard and put up a large digital one.
Sure.
Going north, and then they put a smaller one, but a digital billboard going south,
Yeah, I see that one.
so.
Sure.
So since the agenda packet didn't have anything on this, and I like to know information, I actually spoke to Joel about it. So he said that is in the industrial area, the ones you're talking about coming 9 north. And apparently that big one's been up for years. You know, I didn't know till recently. But the other one also is, they're both allowed. They're on his property. He got the permit from the state. He then has to apply with Joel for a building permit, which he did both times. And I asked him about the billboards on 52 near Cedar Hill. He said those are different. Those are old, you know, and they were approved previously. I mean, we have lit signs for the rec center, for the firehouses, for the schools. Apparently, those were all signs that were approved previously and are not, you know, something like this. But he said the guy has the right to actually put up more if he wants to. So I think that Joel, in his building inspector, well, this is what Joel told me. So
All right.
if you want to get him, Joel said that they can. So Joel said,
My
yeah.
concern is what Brian is saying. Okay, what's left out there, let's deal with them. Can we review our billboard thing? I don't object. Some of these billboards could be nice from what's there right now. What are you guys' thoughts?
I mean, I just like for us to have that review per neighborhood, because maybe it just won't fit, but, you know.
Can we do something like to amend it to say anything outside the PI that's requested has to come before the town board? Can we do something simple like that?
I could do that. Why don't you, I'd suggest, let me put together a memo to the board with some suggested changes, take a look at them, and if they look like they're what you want, I'll draft up a law to make those changes. I'd rather do that than just take a crack at revising the law and sending it over. We're going to wind up to do with maintenance with multiple.
First meeting in August, good?
Sure.
Pardon? First meeting in August?
Oh, absolutely.
The only meeting in August.
Yeah, only.
First, table that to the next, first August meeting. What's up, Russ? Yep.
Curious about, is there a policy of what's actually allowed on the billboard, what they can advertise?
So you're talking some nefarious
The
stuff on
material?
there?
Yeah, no, yeah, I'm
Should
just
we review that,
curious.
Mr. Galba, too?
Are there
Well,
rules?
Content, no, there are not, but it says you can't have signs with flashing, blinking, intermittent, or moving lights, or any artificial light which is not maintained stationary and constant in intensity and color at all times when in use, except for signs displaying time and/or temperature. You also prohibit neon signs, signs with pennants, ribbons, balloons, spinners, et cetera, et
And no
cetera.
subject
But in
matter.
terms of whether it's a cigarette ad or it's,
Strip club
you know,
or
well,
or whatever, you know what I'm saying?
There's one on 80, there's one on 52 for a strip club.
Just from subject matter, the rules.
I understood,
Thanks.
when I talked with Joel, I understood that we could, for instance, have the, I guess, speed with which the signs, the information, or the ad is changed slowed down. So maybe, I don't know that would
I
matter,
think it's at 40 seconds, maybe we do a minute.
you know, so therefore.
that's not in your code. I mean, if you wanted to put that type of thing in, but you wouldn't want to do that without some sort of a study or rationale as to why you said
Okay.
a particular.
Well, I mean, it's just a thought, but also, and since we're on the topic, is there a way we could, what if there's a major emergency and we needed this for emergency purposes to put out some information to the town? Is there a way?
Private property now without the property owner's
Yeah,
consent.
okay, well.
All right, so Mr. Galba, August. All right, next up is discussion to use ARPA money for a water study on Sheer Party. Councilman Foreman asked for this request, I support it.
As do I.
So I got to talk to the MK, whatever that is, and to find out basically what the price would be, and then do a resolution and pass it to do it.
Yep, and in my discussion with Mike Tremper from Camo, he thought it might be an idea for that area to tap into the New York State Bridge Authority's water supply.
Really?
Yeah, so it would really be the engineering contacting the state authority, Bridge Authority, and see if that's at least possible.
Where do they get their water?
I think from the city of Beacon, but I'm not 100% sure.
Okay, so it's no. All right.
Yeah.
Thank you, John. So everybody's okay with that? Get a price and bring it back for a resolution?
Absolutely.
Sure.
Okay. Next up, this discussion, establishment of town policy regarding downstate.
Is there discussion?
No,
too?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Apartments and buildings.
Discussion on accessory apartments and buildings. So,
What does this mean?
well, this is where we're discussing it.
Okay.
So I guess in the new budget, the governor has presented as that she wants more of these buildings and apartments and make it easier.
Yes.
And that's what I like to do.
What is it?
It is an initiative to try to increase the development of additional housing units without necessarily requiring large-scale development operations. So it's to streamline and incentivize people to build accessory dwelling units on their properties.
Is this both residential and commercial, or just residential?
Residential.
So for example, you got a senior citizen that's having a problem with their taxes, they could fix the basement up and rent it out.
Oh, I see.
You guys okay with something like that?
Absolutely.
Let's take a look at that, sure.
Well, hold on a
And I
second.
believe, that if I'm remembering correctly, bearing in mind I'm not in the room for the discussions, that the policy here is a tax credit of some sort.
No.
Or is it an exemption for
No, I think-
added value?
Well, it'd be, whatever extra square footage would be added to the assessed value.
Okay.
So if it's a 500 square foot small studio, whatever an extra bedroom, bathroom would go for, that's what it'd just be. Is that okay with you guys?
Yeah, we gotta have it inspected and make sure.
Yeah, it's gotta be inspected and all that. So that's the first part. And the second part, what was the other thing? Buildings. So it also calls to have an accessory building with an apartment. And I'd like to do that if it meets the setbacks and the health department approvals. Are you guys okay with that?
Say that, describe that again.
If somebody's got a piece of land where they could put a building in the back that meets the setbacks, we can consider letting that happen also.
I think we need to take a look at it, why not?
So if you have the setbacks, you don't need a variance. The only question will be is if the health department will give you permission to put an extra septic on one piece of property.
I see.
It would never be subdividable. It would be on one tax bill, and that's it.
So then the concept is to help with the housing shortage that's going on and
I think it's a no-brainer.
that kind of thing. I think it's worth looking at.
So this town doesn't allow accessory apartments at all?
Oh, no, it does.
We have
not.
It does.
We have them.
We want to try to streamline and make it easier.
Got it.
We do have.
So, Mr. Gavin, can you review the existing laws and see how we can make this easier?
All right, can I work with you on drafting the?
Absolutely.
All right, I'll circle back to you on that.
Absolutely.
We ought to have a conversation with Joel about it.
Sure, and my question is, health department stuff too, can someone tap into the existing septic, or they have to do a different septic?
Well, the health department regs are gonna be the health department regs.
I
It's not
got
gonna
you.
matter what
So
you
that
say.
won't matter no matter what?
Yeah, they might be able to have one septic tank shared, they might be required to put in a small second one. It's gonna depend on what's going on in the house. If you
So
do
that's
that.
not our purview? Okay, so we'll work directly on that, and Joel. First August meeting, table that to August, Becky?
Yep.
All right, next up is discussion of establishment of town policy regarding downstate. All the board members are on top of this. I think we should consider a board policy, then get AJ, Rollison, and maybe Jacobson, and maybe Skoufis to all come together with an agreement of what we'd like to see here if something happens.
What?
Before or after?
Well, listen, I think we all want commercial, is that correct?
Yes.
Is that correct?
Yeah.
Jobs.
So we want jobs.
But if we don't get jobs, what about getting water for Paradise Heights? What about getting water for the people up top on Sunrise Hill? What about a pipeline from the creek to Cherrywood to connect the whole town of Fishkill into one sewer district? That's like a $7 million project. What about 10 years of funding for the school district? You know, these type of things I like to have a list. We agree to it, we vote on it, then ask our assemblymen and our senators, so we have a policy. something
I
there.
understand, but are you talking about allowing residential in exchange?
Well, how about over 55 or seniors? We don't want this, the problem with downstate is the state owns it, and they literally can do what they want with the property.
Right.
Unlike Texaco, where we can enforce our zoning laws, and they can't do anything unless this town board approves it.
That's right.
So we don't want
We
to
don't have a
position,
policy, we're in trouble.
if we don't, exactly, so we don't have a policy, and they say, okay, number one, you want commercial, that's not gonna happen. What are these guys asking for number two? And if they're gonna do something, maybe we can get some more senior housing, maybe some workforce housing, and maybe we get a pipeline to take care of the residents of Fishkill, some school district money, et cetera, where we're just not prepared to respond to what they have. And if we got the board, a bipartisan senator, a bipartisan assemblyman, then we can send that to the governor, and then at least it'll be something where the board has something to cook with.
I know that there, to be quite frank with you, I was trying to do some study on the side and haven't put my finger on it, but this is probably the avenue to do it, which is a way for the town to take over and be the decider of what is going on. So maybe this is an avenue, and I've heard that there was a way, I haven't found out the
It's a
way.
very difficult process, though, because the state is well aware of the fact that as long as it leases the property to a developer as opposed to selling the property to the developer, then the use of the property is not subject to our jurisdiction. As long as the state remains the owner, they are not obligated to comply with our zoning.
Right. So what we do know also is if whatever goes in there, there's not enough police to patrol it, there's no fire district that covers it.
And that could be some, that could be some of the provisions where we connect to the Glenham Fire District. We'll see if they want to do it. First we ask. And that'll be, maybe get an extra patrol car for X amount of years.
Right.
We get extra
Because
trucks depending
extra-
on the height of the buildings. If that's going to require
It's
any
gonna,
fire district to incur an additional expense for equipment, that should be borne by the developer or the state.
100%, because anything that goes in there, it's going to be an additional cost in those areas, and we can't, it shouldn't be foisted on the taxpayers, there's no doubt about it. So I agree with this.
All right, so what we'll do is,
We should also talk about infrastructure expansion. If they're going to be talking about putting a significant number of residential units there, then we need to talk about additional turning lanes, additional exits.
yeah,
and
well, we
entrances
could
from
do
state
that.
roads, et cetera.
We could do this via email, back and forth, what you guys are. When we get something good, we'll have Mr. Gallo write it up.
Sure.
And
Why don't we
then,
get a meeting in your conference room with those state senators and state assembly?
let's get our stuff done first.
Yeah,
Let's get
Yeah.
what we want first.
let's decide
Let's put
that.
together our
Yeah.
list of ideas and then bring it to them when we've got it together.
And then we get them on top, and we get the county executive, our legislators,
Yeah.
and this way, all of us have signed that this is what we like to see here.
I'd like to see this happen, because I don't want somebody from outside the area, which is, the rumors have been, and we've read of, people coming in and doing what they want, and just bypassing the will of the town, so I just love this initiative, so.
Okay, so Joe, we'll send out an email tomorrow, downstate position paper, and the board members will go back and forth until we feel comfortable to vote on it. And CC everybody and Mr. Gaba too. And table that till August, hopefully we have that done, but if we have it done before that, we'll just bring it forward. So this is just to prepare, for example, the downstate property is zoned 1 acre residential, and they put a prison there, so they'll just tell you what they can do there, they basically do what they want to do there. Next up is discussion of rent stabilization. There was in the governor's budget, a 10% max per year, but I believe it was by district. I don't know if we're in a district or not, Mr. Gaba. Do you have any information on that?
Well, rent stabilization, as I understand it, is handled under the Emergency Tenant Protection Act, and that authorizes only certain municipalities to engage in rent stabilization. The City of Kingston, City of Newburgh, Nassau County, Westchester County, and Rockland County. Now, there's the good cause eviction law, which has some provisions similar to rent stabilization, but they're not rent stabilization per se.
So we can't do that in Fishkill.
You cannot, under the existing law, do that in Fishkill, no.
Okay, Becky, close that out, please. Close out ID 9326.
Yep.
Next up is ID 9341, discussion of good cause eviction.
That is what you were
Can we
referring to.
Can we do something with that?
The good cause eviction law, which I believe was enacted in January and literally just became effective, applies on its face to New York City. And if a municipality outside of New York City wishes to have its provisions applicable to it, it has to enact a local law opting into the good cause eviction law. There's quite a few provisions in the good cause eviction law, as Greg points out. It's not just limiting the grounds on which a landlord can go forward with an eviction. It also limits, to some degree at least, the extent to which rents can be raised annually. So if the board's interested.
Do we have to take the whole thing, or could we?
You have to take the whole thing. It's
Okay.
all or nothing.
We got to look at this before we enact it, because I know there's both sides of the coin, on this whole thing, but I get the,
As I understand it, there's a bit of flexibility within the rental increase cap in terms of it being tied to the CPI.
Yeah, it's tied to the CPI, but I don't know how much the municipality has flexibility to determine the extent of the increase. I know for rent stabilization, in New York City, they have their own department that determines the amount, and I believe
Sure.
the counties do outside of that. I suppose in the City of Newburgh and the City of Kingston, they must have in-city bureaus, but I don't really know.
can you provide us with some?
Give us a memo?
Something which.
Well, I'll give you the text of the law. You can look it over. If you have any questions, let me know.
That'd be good. I would like that, because I don't, I don't know enough about this.
Let's do this the first meeting in July, the only meeting in July.
Before we do that, Mr. Gabb, are you aware of there being a deadline to opt in?
No, I don't believe there is. I think
Okay, then July I'm fine with.
So,
Just, I wouldn't want the deadline to pass if it was something we decided we wanted to proceed with.
So you can
I'll
give,
check,
Let's
and if
miss
there's
it.
a problem, I'll let you know, but I do not believe there is a deadline.
so can you prepare the memo for discussion and prepare it as a resolution to set a public hearing on it for July?
I think so. If I have a problem, I'll let you know.
Okay, let's do that.
Thank you.
July, Madam Clerk. Next up is a discussion or to review and update the town's housing law. Christian Harkins wanted to do a presentation today, but we were busy. How about we table that to the next meeting and invite him over? So if any questions come up, the board members would have somebody to speak to about this.
That's great, and if we can get an advanced copy of the presentation that could be included in the agenda packet, that would be good too.
Joe, remind me to do that with Mr. Harkins?
We doing in June?
No, next meeting. He wants to do a presentation. He wants to talk about the...
Yeah, I remember asking him to give us the background on affordable housing,
Yeah.
so I know he's got a lot of good information.
So let's have
I know
let's
May
have
is
him
also
here.
his busy season, so
Well, listen, he wanted to come today, but we're
Yeah.
too busy today.
understandable.
All right, next meeting is the 15th. Next up, 9338, discussion of resolution to declare certain highway equipment as surplus. It's routine. Everybody okay with that?
Yeah.
Next up is a discussion of resolution authorize modification of 2024 Highway DA Fund for auction proceeds. Highway was able to receive $204,000.
I've read that.
That's good, right?
Yeah.
Everybody good with that?
Yep.
Okay. Next up, number 10, 934, discussion of easement for the corner of Route 9D and Magnolia Drive. As the lady was up here earlier talking about her property, the Town of Fishkill, when that was a vacant lot for many years. The applicant asked for the town to hook into water and sewer. The town granted that request. It was also a modular home, and the building inspector helped them build the house. And now we have an issue with a fence. And the board members want to resolve this. Mr. Gabbard, just give us a brief synopsis.
Ozzy, if I could first, please, just, I'd like to apologize to Mr. and Mrs. Rodriguez. I certainly did not mean to be short with you or adversarial. I understand your situation. I've been working on it now for a year, and you have every right to be heard by the board. And again, if I was out of line there, I'm sorry, and we just want to work to see if we can get this resolved. Now, as far as the board's concerned, the situation, as I understand it, is that a pool was being put in on the property, and under the town code, I believe under state regulations, pools have to be fenced because there's danger people would fall in. Now, it so happens that under your code, if you wish, if you're a property owner, you can build your fence larger than the pool. You can fence in your property, and that counts as the fence against the pool, provided certain parameters are met. And Mr. and Mrs. Rodriguez came to the building department, and they asked for a building permit for the fence for their property. It was issued, they put up the fence. And once the fence was up, the building department realized that the fence is too close to 9D. So the building permit should not have been issued for that fence. It was issued in error. Now, as it happens in New York state law, municipalities who issue building permits in error are not legally responsible for changes. The property owner is responsible for making sure that they comply with the law when they come in and submit the application for a building permit. And if there's a mistake in issuing it, the mistake is deemed, notwithstanding the building inspector signed off on it, to be the property owners, because their responsibility is to develop their land in accordance with the law. So the town needs to have this fence moved back from Route 9D. And they could, if the board was so inclined. I hadn't planned on discussing this tonight, by the way. As long as they're here, I'm comfortable mentioning it, but I mean, we would not have gone into this otherwise. Anyway, it needs to be moved. So the town could pursue them to require them to move the fence on the grounds that it's a code violation. But under the circumstances, that's really probably not a route anybody wants to take. So the thought was that perhaps the town could assist them in moving the fence. Problem with that is that there's a prohibition on making improvements on private property. It's considered an unconstitutional gift of public funds. So the town can't just say, oh, sorry, we issued your building permit in error, let's move your fence, because it's unconstitutional to do that. However, if the town were to get consideration back from the property owner, like in a contract, then they could move the fence, because now they're getting bargained for value in return for the service that they're providing, and it serves a public purpose in that the fence is too close to the road. We've heard from New York State DOT complaining about it already. So the consideration that it was thought that the town could get, and it would be certainly something of value, would be what's called a site easement. Site is in visual. If it was agreed that on this property, a certain distance, I can't say how many feet, and that would be up to the building department and your engineers to determine, but there was an agreement that nothing would be built. Landscaping could be there, you understand, but not fences, not sheds, not so forth along 9D. Then the town could reach an agreement with the property owner where the town would undertake to move the fence in. And that's where we are as far as the proposal goes. Obviously, it's up to the property owner as to how they want to proceed. If they want to go forward with that, we could certainly work out an arrangement. If they don't want to work out an arrangement, then, you know, we're going to have to talk with the building department as to what the appropriate enforcement proceedings would be. And that's where the matter stands now. I'd suggest that the board, since that's been pointed out, this wasn't, you know, something they were invited to, doesn't go into discussion of it now. I'd send out a letter to Mr. and Mrs. Rodriguez. Perhaps they want to get back to me at some point and discuss whether they're willing to pursue on this or proceed on this or not, and we can go from there. If not, then again, it's something you can put on your agenda, and you can give notice to everyone that it'll be on the agenda and see how things work out.
If I could just ask a couple of questions, since I am the new guy on the board. Early, you mentioned that pools are required to be fenced. Is the outstanding issue with the fence permit that was installed and the fact that it's now in the wrong place, is that the reason why the pool permit, which was discussed when the resident spoke earlier, that the reason why that pool permit has not been closed?
That is correct.
Okay. So that cannot be closed legally until the fence is resolved.
So the pool, it counts for the pool too, so we can't close out the pool.
Okay, thank you.
So you guys okay with Mr. Gamba working with their attorney to come up with a resolution?
I don't believe they
I
have
think
an
she
attorney.
would like to speak.
I would like to speak.
Good.
First and foremost.
Can you come?
Oh, I have to move the microphone. I'm pretty loud.
Well,
If the reason that the pool is not being closed is the fence, why have I not received that in 19 months in writing, even though I've asked multiple times to be told why my pool can't be closed? Why have I not received one document that states to me that my pool cannot be closed because of my fence? And a pool has to be closed in by a fence completely with a self-locking fence, a self-latching fence, a fence of at least 4 feet high in the front of a home and 6 feet high in the back of a home, no gaps. I could do this all night. That fence does meet all of those boxes. It checks every single one. I agree, the position of it isn't something the town is happy with. I get that. But in the meantime, in the past 19 months, could we have closed the pool permit instead of holding it over people's heads so that my OCD could have calmed down and I could go in my $142,000 pool without being nervous of getting in trouble? That's all we're asking for. Close the pool permit. We're not against moving the fence. We've had meetings with you guys 13, 14 months ago about closing the fence, moving the fence. You're just not closing the pool permit, literally to be spiteful. It's the only thing you're doing. And to go on record and say the DOT has complained about it, I have numerous emails and letters from the Department of Transportation that say they have no dog in the fight. They have no problem with where the fence is. Numerous. So if we're gonna go on the record, we're gonna go on it properly. The Department of Transportation has nothing to do with this. They have no problem with our fence. Zero. And it's on Route 9D, which is a state road.
Any comments,
Yes?
guys?
well, it's just a major breakdown here, and I'm sorry that this has happened to you guys. I don't understand why we can't just resolve the pool thing, since I mean, this is just me talking as a normal everyday person. I would be very upset if I got a permit for a fence and I was told it was in compliance, but then it came back and there was this issue and I was told that, you know, and I understand that's the law, but still, you know, while she's very schooled on a lot of different issues, I'm not kind of appreciating that nuance where you get a permit, but now you're in the wrong and you're being held up. So I just don't understand why we can't resolve this thing and let her swim in a pool this summer.
Mr. Gaba, can we resolve the pool situation without resolving the fence situation first, legally?
The fence is illegal. I know that there's disagreement on that, but from the town's perspective, the fence is not legally erected. Since the fence is not legally erected, the pool is not legal, and therefore it cannot be closed out.
There's never been anything cited to the legality of my fence. There's been some letters which are hysterically written with some misspelled words and other things sent from different people in the town, but I've never had anything cited to the legality of where the fence problem is. Also, like I've never had anything cited to the legality of my pool not being closed. We've been doing this for 19 months, and my first correspondence from you was 7 days ago. Do we all know what you can accomplish in 19 months in our country, in this town?
Well, I understand your frustration, and
I think this
feel-
guy here is the only one who actually understands my frustration, because he's the only one who's actually saying that he gets what I'm saying. We want to swim in our pool. Why did we put in a pool?
Can we expedite this, Mr. Gallo?
Come on.
Building department's position, and I happen to agree with it, is that the fence is got to be legally erected in order for the pool to be closed out.
It is legally erected. It locks, it closes, and it's high enough. Nobody could get in our pool today if they wanted to.
Building permit for it was revoked, was it not?
Based off of what? Can I have something legal about
The
this?
building permit was revoked. It doesn't matter whether you agree with it or not, until
I'm not
all the paperwork is in
discussing
order.
agreeing with it.
The
When
fence
was it
is-
revoked?
Joel revoked it last year, I'm quite certain.
When did
It's
you
all right.
notify us?
Joel sent a
When
notice
was
of,
Ozzy or somebody to notify us?
it's not Ozzy. Again, I apologize, and I don't want to make this adversarial. I'm just
Okay,
telling you
so
what the
like I
situation
said
is.
earlier, you're blackmailing us because you want us to discuss the fence with you and do what the town wants to be done before we can swim in our pool.
If you
Or get
want-
our solar permit
Can I just
signed.
say that he's not blackmailing?
I understand.
He's our
Colloquial
attorney,
sense.
he's
Yeah.
advising us, that's all.
Yeah, no, I get
You
it,
know,
I get
you
it.
know.
I know our tax dollars pay a lot to his firm for him to be here and nod his head at me, I get it. We just want to swim in our pool.
I want you to too, and I don't understand why we can't, how is it that we can't just work this out? If she has documentation that DOT has no problem with where the fence is located, I don't understand why, I'm at a loss myself.
We received a letter. I can't even recall, and I apologize, I don't have it with me, but we received a letter from Glenn Schofield back in the day. 3 sentences, very poorly written letter, that he would like the white vinyl fence removed ASAP. So my husband, on his next day off, went to see Mr. Schofield. Looked my husband dead in the face and said, "I don't know anything about this. That letter has nothing to do with me. Joel sent it, putting my name on it so you'd move your fence."
Wow.
I mean, this has just been like a backwards, shady nonsense from day one.
Mr. Gallo, we're willing to work with him with that easement, and we get that done as quick as possible, we get the fence moved and give him the permit. I think that's where we're at right
If
now.
they're willing to do that, that
Well,
would work
are you
out.
guys willing to- are
Nobody
you
can
willing to do
force
that?
them to do
Absolutely.
that. It's up to
You
them.
want to do this, do the...
I want to get these 2 things resolved as quickly as possible because I want these nice people to be able to swim in their pool. But I
Yeah.
also don't want to go through it in order in which the town ends up screwing things up from a legal standpoint. So if we
Well,
can
there's
work as
also some
quickly as
confusion
possible
on
to-
this easement, because we've been told multiple things, and until your letter, we were never told site easement. We've been told easement time and time again. There's a big difference between a site easement and easement. Not that I know that, but I've learned. Big difference.
Well, if you're willing to go forward with a site easement, as the board said, I'm sure we could work this out.
Okay, so a site easement is literally just for site. It's not you guys taking ownership of part of the property?
No.
We don't want your land.
You don't want it, okay, that's good.
I
Sorry.
think it partly means that if you guys were to decide to move, the new owners would have to live with the site easement. That the site stays with the property,
Yes.
correct?
Correct.
So
Does it essentially
who's
have the-
legally responsible for the fence when you take a site easement? Like now, if somebody slams into my fence or something happens, it's me they're gonna sue. When you guys take the site easement, what happens to that part of the property?
There'll be nothing on the property. The fence will be moved back away from the road.
So the fence will be on the opposite side and you're taking site easement from the front, okay. So I was also told last July, which I'm such a good person with these dates, that you guys were having an engineer look into the distances and having somebody come out and measure so that I would be able to know by August about where this would be being moved. My guess is no one did that yet, right?
I don't know.
How long is that gonna take?
John, you okay with the, working on the easement thing? Site easement?
of course.
Get MJ Engineering to go out there.
No, wait.
I was told that, yeah, I think that's a name that was
Was it?
last year in July, yeah.
They weren't here then.
No, they
Well,
just opened
whoever you
last
guys
month.
were gonna send out in July, but nobody
CPL.
came. Okay. So we're gonna understand that after we decide this, then we're gonna close our pool permit.
That's the only way we could do it.
It's not true.
Mr. Gabba, that's not true?
If the fence is illegal, I don't see how the pool permit can be closed out.
Okay, I'm done with this. So work with your client and come to a resolution, bring it back to the board, and we'll make a deal.
Get them both squared away.
Yep.
And our solar permit that's sitting in there again?
I don't know what you're talking about, the solar permit.
I know, you said that last year, Ozzy, and then it
I
was
don't.
found.
I don't.
Our solar company, Plug PV, came in on April 19th and gave Debbie another solar permit, because we're adding more panels, because after a year of doing the numbers, we need more.
Okay.
They're ready to install the panels, and my husband came in last week on Tuesday, and Debbie said, I don't know anything about it, and you can't talk to me, and sent him on his way. So where is our solar permit that the
I have no
company
idea.
brought?
I'll have to reach out to you to discuss the site easement. I'll touch base with Joel tomorrow, and I will find out what the status of your solar application is. And when I get back to you, I will update you on where that's at.
Okay, so when we have that discussion, also putting out there that the fence is to be moved by the company that installed the fence.
Yeah, we talked about that.
Okay, thank you, John, we did discuss that. John's got it.
No, we talked, and then we talked about it as well.
Yeah.
I know that was
Because we
important.
already had to have the fence repaired twice, and we have a lifetime warranty with that fence. So if anyone else moves it, being on 9B, we've already had damage.
Warranty goes south.
We wouldn't wish for that to happen.
What's your name?
Me?
Yeah.
Brian.
I can't see that far, I'm old as can be.
I know, Brian Rock.
Thank you, Brian.
Okay.
How much time do you need, Mr. Gabba?
Why don't you put it on for 60 days, and if I can get that back to you before, then I will.
August? Maybe
That's June, 60 days.
So we're gonna just go
No,
for our
July.
pool legally?
July.
Oh, July, I'm sorry.
First meeting in July. If we can close it out before that, we'll move it June. All right, that one's done.
It's rather embarrassing.
Next up is discussion of the Town of Fishkill local law regarding term limits. Mr. Gabba, you again there. Let me see, we got two here with term limits. Election is beginning.
Term limits number 11.
Number 11, right?
Yep, 9342.
Okay.
He wrote an email and he wrote a memo.
So is the first one with the memo about the validity of town code term limit provision?
Yes, you'd asked me to look into the existing town code section, it was local law number 1 of 2020 imposing term limits. So I reviewed the town clerk's file, and thank you to Cooper for sending that over. And I looked into the applicable law. The town clerk's file shows that it was properly noticed for public hearing, properly introduced. Public hearing was opened and closed by a vote of 3-0. The local law was adopted, and then it was duly filed with the Secretary of State. So procedurally, all the boxes were checked on the local law. Under the municipal home rule law, a municipality is a town board, is entitled to enact term limits, and the term limits are not subject to either referendum, neither permissive nor mandatory, and they are not required to be passed by a supermajority. So a 3-0 vote will get it done. So I've reviewed the local law. The local law was all done in accordance with applicable law, and your term limit provision is valid.
Can you, next meeting, present a resolution to the town board accepts this memo?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, can you do that for the next meeting, please? March 15th? Just a simple resolution, we'll put that in consent. The next one is also dealing with term limits regarding the 4-year applicability of the law. Mr. Rugabo did a nice memo. There was just some ambiguity about loopholes. This was discussed in depth. There are no loopholes.
And a typographical error.
And a typographical error, that's fine. But there are no loopholes in this law. So can you
No,
just
as
give us-
written, I'm advised that that was the intent, that partial terms would not count against full terms. And as a result of that, for example, Brian served 1 year when he started. That does not count against filling out the term of his predecessor. That does not count against term limits. And it so happens, since we're discussing the subject, well, let me take a step back. New York State has adopted a law under which local elections will, New York State's adopted a law under which local elections will now be held in even years. So in order to get off odd years, the, 2025 and 2027 elections will be for 1 year less than the term which was otherwise set by your local code. Now, in your case, you have 4-year terms. That means that in 2025, whoever wins for the term commencing in 2026, you understand, will serve a 3-year term instead of a 4-year term. And the same thing in 2027, if that's when your term expires. In order to catch up with even year elections, the local elections for 2025 and 2027 will be for 1 year less than the term established by your local code. So if you're running for a 2-year term, you're only going to serve 1 year when you're elected in 2025. If you're running for a 4-year term, you're going to have a term of 3 years when you're elected, and that'll put the next election into an even year. Now, under your term limits provision in your code, you say, the code says, I should say, that partial terms don't count toward term limits. Elected supervisors, elected town board members are entitled to serve 2 full 4-year terms. So, for example, I don't mean to pick on you, Brian, but
I'm the closest one.
You are the closest one. So you served 1 year before you started your first 4-year term now, okay? And you're going to run again, and I guess it's 2027, assuming that you do run in 2027.
We'll see.
And if you're reelected in 2027, you'll be elected to a 3-year term, okay? And then if you want to run again after that, you can for another full 4-year term. Altogether, you will have served this 4-year term, that 4-year term down the road, plus a 3-year term in between.
And a 2-year term.
And in 2 years, he already served.
2 years, pardon me,
Yeah.
so 5 years in addition to. But that's the way the code was written. Everybody gets 2 full 4-year terms. And I believe that's what was intended when the law was adopted. So it isn't, I use the term in the memo loophole, that's not quite correct. It's just the way that the law.
And it goes the same way, if it's a 4-year term, somebody can't resign the 3rd year in and then run for re-election. They can't do that.
No, if you're elected to a 4-year term and the term is not shortened by some anomaly like New York State shortening your term, it's a 4-year term even if you resign on your own. It counts as a 4-year term towards.
So can you add that, clear that up in this memo?
You want me to add it? Sure.
I want you to add that, take the loophole stuff out.
No problem.
And the clerical error, and do the same thing with the resolution. The town board accepts it, we'll put that in consent, and we'll move forward. So the same thing, the second meeting in May 15th.
So we're sort of memorializing the
Yes.
intent of the
Yes.
term limit law
The people-
through that resolution.
People have questions.
Got it.
So in essence, if it's a 3-year term, it doesn't count toward term limits.
That's correct, it's a partial term.
Partial
Okay.
term. All right, that's done.
Close.
You can close that, and we'll just do a resolution and consent next time. So next up is discussion of town property 81 and 82. So there's a house that we own that we bought about 20 years ago for $212,000. I talked with the highway superintendent about this, and I'll read the highway superintendent's letter to us. A discussion of, I'm sorry, that's no ordinance. Do you see Carmine's letter?
I'm looking for it.
Or was that it? Is that the snow ordinance?
Oh, no, they're both on the same memo.
They're on the same memo?
Yeah,
Oh,
it's
they're
the
bottom.
second paragraph.
Oh, okay, my apologies. All right, so discussion of sale of town-owned property, 81 Route 82, ID number 9346. As I brought to the supervisor's attention during our recent tour of the town parks, the property located at 8182 Fishkill, New York has become a liability instead of an asset. It is my suggestion to the supervisor that if it is possible to sell the asset to a potential future resident of Fishkill, the property sits on a 2-acre parcel, and if the board agrees to a sale of the property, a realignment would be needed to be done to make the property sit on 1 acre due to the fact that it is R40 zoning. The remaining acre will then become a part of Shepherd Park. I fully understand that this would have to be brought to the public as a ballot referendum as per its current town code. So during the Rolling Hills litigation, there was a piece of property that the previous town board wanted to sell to the developer. Myself, Louise, Kenya, Councilman Brockfeld, we changed the law to where any selling of town-owned property has to be done by the voters. So you would have an opportunity to say whether we sell a piece of property or not, and to give you a further checks and balances of your town board. I'd like to see this, I'd like to comply with what Carmine likes. The thing is, for me, is the timing to get it on the November ballot, so the residents of Fishkill can vote yes or no on it.
I think it's 60 days before the election is when you need to get matters into the Board of Elections. I know that's the way it is in Orange. I'd have to check how it is here in Dutchess. So it's easy enough to do the resolutions to provide for the sale. Your code, as you point out, has a bit of an unusual provision in it. It says that when you want to sell property, you have to have a resolution saying that you're going to make the sale subject to permissive referendum, which is, of course, what's required by the town law. But in addition, you need a resolution saying that the sale will be subject to mandatory referendum, and you set forth 3 criteria that the board is supposed to consider in regard to whether or not you're going to make it mandatory referendum. You can still make it mandatory if you want, just put it on.
How do we get it to where the voters vote on it? That's what I want to do.
You would go the mandatory
Let's do
referendum
that.
route, otherwise you'd have to count on somebody filing a petition with the requisite number of signatures.
No, let's-
But my
let's
point is, you're
skip
going
that
to
and
need
do
two, you're
that
going to
for
need
them.
2 resolutions. in
So let's
order
do
to
both then.
this.
Whatever
You
you
have
think,
to do both.
whatever you think we need to do, let's do this.
I can do that.
Okay, when?
I'm going to need a little bit more information about the property. First meeting in June?
We have one meeting in June.
The one meeting in June.
June, July, August.
You want July? You need more time?
No, if you want it on the ballot, you ought to get this done.
Yeah.
Okay.
So,
And this is something where your town code, your residents have a direct say and
It's a
policy.
veto power, really.
It's a veto power. This is pretty cool that you have that.
Can we use proceeds to offset what it costs to repair the rec roof?
I think Carmine wants to pave Shepherd's Park with that, I think. So he's got his eyes on that money. And that money will go into the Parklands Trust Fund.
Hello, Madam Clerk.
I
Shoot.
just have a question, because this subject came up about maybe 10, 15 years ago about selling that property. And I overheard, I
wait a
wasn't
minute, is it
part of
Parkland
the-
property?
No,
Sorry.
it's not Parkland Park.
Oh,
I
okay,
apologize.
never mind.
I
We-
was told it was bought with Parkland Trust money and we could not ever sell it.
No, I checked the
Yeah.
property file, I checked the assessor's file. There's nothing in there
Oh,
that
perfect.
says any of that stuff.
Okay, that's just what I was told. This was
Joe, you
a
reviewed it too,
decade
right?
ago.
We both reviewed it.
Decade ago. Okay.
Okay. So I think the sale price was like
I just didn't want
$212.
you to run into a snag if that meant something.
Oh, we appreciate you flagging it for
Yeah.
us.
Okay. That's pretty, could be unique to have something to vote on in Fishkill. All right. Next up is snow ordinance, also with Highway Superintendent Estevan. Discussion of updating the law for snow ordinance, parking ID 9324. As I discussed with Supervisor Albert, the current law that is in place pertaining to the snow ordinance parking is outdated and needs to be revised. I would suggest that before any actions and changes were to take place, that I be given the opportunity to speak to the town board regarding this matter, saying it pertains to and directly affects the highway department and its functions during snow removal operations. I would like the opportunity to work with Mr. Gabb on the new law that encompasses the aspects found in New York State Vehicle and Traffic Law, Section 1103, Subdivision B.
Let's put him on.
No,
the
we'll just-
agenda.
we'll
Do you
let
know
him-
what he has in mind?
Looks like he wants to work with Mr. Gaba, and when they come with an agreement, bring it to the attention of the board.
But you don't know specifically any details or?
I think right now, the law is you can't park anywhere on the streets from April to.
Right.
March.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah, November to March.
No, November to March.
Something like
April
yeah.
1st, I think, or something like that.
Yeah,
Well, you might-
November 1st to March 31st.
Yeah.
But if
and
you go a month without snow, sometimes people want to park out.
We've had 2
Or a
snowstorms.
month without snow, sometimes people do park on the roads.
Well,
Let's
I
be
know,
fair.
Right.
So,
Well, I guess we got to look at what he wants to do.
what do you think, Mr. Gaba?
I don't know what he wants to do. I mean, if you want to change the law to say that you can park certain times, or there's required a minimum amount of snow before you can't park.
Yeah, I think that would be
Certainly
something like if
that's
it's
the type of thing
more than, I don't know what he's gonna say, more than an inch of snow, 2 inches. If that happens, you're gonna get a ticket. So, you wanna talk to Carmen about this?
Yeah, sure.
So, where you wanna put this?
July.
July?
All right.
Table this to July, please. Thank you, Mr. Gaba. Next up, discussion to amend the town code to disallow police honor guard and cadets from attending political events in uniform. I don't like seeing cadets and police officers being used in political events. That's my personal opinion. I've never asked any of them to come to my political events. I don't think it should happen. I don't think taxpayer dollars or volunteers wearing a Town of Fishkill patch should be involved in that stuff. And I'd like to amend the town code to prohibit that from happening in the future.
Hear, hear.
I'd like to ask Officer Bentley to come up because he's one of the supervisors of the cadets. And I know, Supervisor, you expressed thoughts about this. And what I know is that, and please confirm this, Officer Bentley, that there is a Republican Party that has asked these cadets to come out for the purposes of Pledge of Allegiance for about 15 years. Is that what you know?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I've been running the cadet program for the last 20 years.
Yeah.
And it's been at least 10 or 15 years that we've
Yeah.
been doing this
And to your knowledge, when they come to do the Pledge of Allegiance, do they stay to be indoctrinated for anything? Or are they coming to do the pledge and as a courtesy and then they leave? Is that basically your knowledge?
Yes, we've done honor guards for every, for the village, for the town. They do the presentation and we go.
Right. They do it very well.
Thank you, thank you. We pride ourselves on it, and quite frankly, we're humbled and feel as a privilege when the town has always asked us to perform an honor guard, so we greatly appreciate that. I think generally there's maybe a little misconception as to what the cadet program actually is. The cadet program is a separate, independent, non-for-profit organization, and we are a part of the company called NERLIA, which is the Northeast Regional Law Enforcement Association. We have our own insurance, there's no difference between the cadet program and the Boy Scouts or the Little League. In reference to the resolution that I saw online, I don't believe that the town, and perhaps Mr. Garbo, you could contest to this, could pass a resolution ordering juveniles not to be able to wear a uniform that they themselves purchase. The cadet,
They have our patch on it. Our town
it's not
seal
your
on it.
patch.
Our town seal is on the patch.
Mr. Galbar, Mr. Supervisor, with all due respect, and I have a great deal of respect for members of the board, the patch itself I designed in 2015, and it was purchased by the cadet program and handed to the cadets to be as part of their uniform. It was never given to us as part of the town, and I designed it myself.
Does it contain the town seal on it?
It does contain the town seal on it, but just like the Little League or Fishkill Auto Body or Fishkill Tire, there's no copyright to a seal or
Yeah,
to
but there
the...
is a prohibition of using seals and official government insignia for political fundraising purposes. And while the cadets are not engaged in fundraising, they may be performing at an event where individuals are contributing money to either a political organization or to the campaign of politicians. And while I think any cadet, police officer, anyone who wishes to attend such an event should be encouraged to do so, they must do so in their individual capacity, lest they give the appearance, as certain individuals have expressed to me, that they are representing the town of Fishkill when they attend these events. So the question that I get asked is, why are the cops showing up for Republican fundraisers? And obviously I have to explain that they are part of our cadet program, that they're very good kids who are wanting to serve their community. It's an excellent program. But then the question is, well, then why are they in uniform? And I respect that the kids or their families pay for their own uniforms. But at the end of the day, the patch on their sleeve has that town seal on it. And there are a lot of people who live in this town, and I'm sure some of them are really happy to see that those individuals might be attending a political event for a political party that they might identify with. But then there's just as many people, if not more, who either do not identify with that political party and identify with another one, or don't identify with any political party whatsoever. And we serve everybody.
Correct. And if you will, Lady Justice is blind, and we teach that to our cadet program. We don't get involved with politics as far as Democrats, Republican, and even the town supervisor has asked us to perform an honor guard. We're happy to do so. We don't, if somebody asks us, in the 20 years I've been involved, we've never said no.
Are you open to all parties around here, political parties? Like if the Democrats asked you to come and do the pledge?
We would
and
never do that, sir.
I know you don't, but you're open to that.
Absolutely.
But so that's their choice to not do that.
No,
And all we want,
Then
this
take
is
the
this
patch
is
off
what
the
happened.
sleeve.
This is what
Well,
happened.
the patch could say anything. It's
Mr.
not.
Diab, can we-
I mean, I designed it. It wasn't given to
Can
me
we,
as.
listen, so can we
Out of town.
amend the town code to disallow police honor guard and any volunteers under the umbrella of the town of Fishkill for attending political events?
Well, let me take a step back to the cadets. Who runs the, who sponsors the?
Well, here's the issue. They drive in our patrol cars, we give them bulletproof vests, our officers spend time, tax dollars are being used to train them, so we have a vested interest in them to see what's going on.
Police officers, clearly.
Yes.
He was talking about cadets, though.
Yeah, but the cadets are being trained by the officers while they're on duty. So there's a public benefit going to them. And then the second portion is, they are attending political fundraisers, and I don't think that's proper.
And again,
Thing is
there's a
that-
very significant difference when the town supervisor, I remember fantastic performance from the cadets at 9/11 ceremonies in the past, the 20th anniversary. Last year, when Cadet Winter read the poem, the essay about
Yes, outstanding.
9/11, phenomenal. Those are official town functions. But there is a decided difference between Supervisor Albra and Councilman Greg Totino, town officials, and Ozzy Albra and Greg Totino, politicians. And just as there is between our friends John and Brian, when they're sitting at this dais or they're acting in their official capacity, and when they're going around and asking for money so that they can run for office.
Correct.
That is a very big difference.
Correct. And I know I would not want to put our cadets in a position where we're in the middle of two political parties arguing or fighting or anything else. We don't want to get in the middle of that. We go to perform a service to
Absolutely.
honor our country and our flag.
Mhm.
We don't get involved with the politics. The cadet program does not want to get put in the middle of any of that.
Absolutely.
So that's
And
our
to be
position.
clear, I don't intend with this particular initiative, which I'm supporting, this is not an indictment of yourself, anyone else involved in the training or oversight of the department. I know Sergeant Murtaugh's been involved.
Yes.
You have done an excellent job. This is not indicting you, you know, for any, this is just a statement that there can be, and it's not just from a technical standpoint, but there's also the appearance of impropriety. So we can
Impropriety?
discuss, Brian.
Why is there an impropriety?
I said the appearance of impropriety.
Well,
There
how-
is
how
an
is-
important.
I'm just curious.
Am I allowed to talk?
I'm asking you a question. How is there an appearance of impropriety when kids come and we do the pledge and they go home? How is there an appearance?
They did not go home, first of all. They sat at a table for the rest of the event. So get your facts right there, Mr.
No,
Mr.
they
Counsel.
don't.
They stayed for the, you want me to take the picture out of my phone and show it to you?
Okay, reclaiming my time. The appearance of impropriety comes from any individual who might observe an event where people wearing uniforms with a patch on the sleeve that has the town seal of the town of Fishkill and sees them attending an event where their mere appearance at that event could appear to a reasonable person to confer an endorsement of what that event represents. If I go to your event, Brian, you're having a fundraiser, I might just be going because I like you and I'd like to have a chat with you about something, but someone attending that event might think that I'm there because I'm endorsing your candidacy for whatever it is that you're running for in that particular hypothetical situation. There is a big, big difference between a public function and a function which has an overtly political purpose. And again, if any member of the cadets wants to attend a political event for any party, for any reason, They should be encouraged to do so. I don't think young people participate enough. But there's a big difference between going to something maybe with your parents or your family, or even by yourself because you're interested and you want to learn more, and another one where you're standing there in a uniform with a sleeve which conveys the authority of the town of Fishkill, while people are asking you to give them money for their campaigns to run for office.
Okay, well, that's all good.
John wanted to speak first?
Yeah.
John, do you want to speak?
I do. Before I offer a comment, I just want to know legally, where are we on this?
Well, legally, you can, as the police, you need a law as the police commission. You can say that police officers cannot attend political events when in uniform. Now, you can't, of course, as a matter of First Amendment rights, stop them from attending political events. But to say, this is your uniform, this is part of your job, you can't wear the uniform to events, you can do that if you want to.
We're talking about officers or cadets?
Well, I was just talking about officers.
Okay.
I don't know who runs the cadet program. Who runs the cadet program?
They run it, it's a 501c3.
We're our own separate,
They're a separate
not-for-profit
organization.
organization.
Because if it's not the town.
Correct.
The town spends money on them.
Yes, we do, because we invite them
We
to
spend
have the
money on
cadet
them.
program here,
Condition money on them complying with certain provisions, but you can't otherwise dictate if it's not a town-run organization, you can't set rules for it.
We can't set rules for them to attend political events, and they use taxpayers' monies to facilitate what they want to do.
The police, you clearly can.
Okay?
The cadets, if it's not a town organization, you can say, we will not provide money unless you comply with these provisions.
So we can say we won't support them if they attend political events.
Yes, unless they incorporate a rule saying that you can't attend political events in
uniform.
Okay. Can you make something like that happen?
Well,
hold on.
I don't know that we're going to agree to that.
So you want to be
No.
able to use
Of course
you wouldn't agree to it.
We're not
who benefits from
We're not
coming in?
finished discussing this. We're not finished discussing this. So you can yell all you want. We're not finished discussing this.
John has the table.
John, please.
So I would like to refrain from voting on this as a resolution, but in order to show the spirit of solidarity, we have one member from one major party to my left, two members from the other major party to my right. I think we can make an agreement that we're just not going to use the cadets at political functions.
Which is what I was building up to. Now, let me just say something. Just chill out. And I put it in an email. I didn't want to have a public discussion that might embarrass these kids. These are kids. It's an honor to see them. They're wonderful, and they give themselves wherever they go. They're going out of state to a competition soon, right?
On Saturday.
On this Saturday.
Excellent.
So they're going out of state and they go. Do they not go and represent are they marching in parades and all kinds of events all over the county, correct?
We do, yes.
Yes,
Who's
all over the place.
supervising them, Detective? Who's supervising them?
When?
Who's going to that event?
Myself and Sergeant Murtaugh,
And how are you being paid for that?
from the police department.
Okay.
So here's the thing, because I didn't want these kids that are non-political to hear an argument like this. I said we should just discuss this in private and come to an agreement. The only time that this has become an issue has been, for some reason, this year, after 10 or 15 years, that this has been innocently going along. But if it upsets you, you can laugh all you want, because whatever you think is absolutely incorrect. These kids just come and go, and they're wonderful to see, and that's all there is to it. You got pictures of them eating. I told them, I said, you guys got up so early, why don't you make sure you get some of the breakfast before you leave? So if you want to say they stayed for the entire program.
You said they said the pledge and left. That's
Yeah.
not the truth.
Yeah. And so you have pictures of them staying. I'm at the front running this thing, and if they decided to stay way the hell in the back and have some breakfast, that's great. They had breakfast and then they went home. Whatever. You guys are making a big deal out of this. Why don't we, Sergeant Bentley, just agree with the program that they're not going to come to a political event anymore? Why don't we just do that? Because I don't see the point of passing this, and we're big enough people that we can just agree to that.
I totally disagree. I think we have an opportunity to prove for future town boards not to renege on our words. And this way it'll be in the town code. And this way, one day, if there's another Republican majority, another Democratic majority, they can't flip-flop and use the cadets.
No, but it's a 501c3. Okay.
We're working on
So
it now.
you're not paying them, but the
I
thing
do
is-
have a question for Detective Bentley, because this is just subsequent to what the supervisor asked. Were the cadets, was there a leader or an officer who was present with the cadets at the event where they were at the color guard recently, which is the topic of this? Was there an officer present for that?
I'm not sure if Sergeant Murtaugh was there or not. I was not there.
So it was just the cadets?
I thought Murtaugh was there, but he
I'm
wasn't.
not, he may have been, I don't know, I wasn't there.
Well, he just said when they go to events, officers go with them. Taxpayer dollars are being used to facilitate the cadet program.
So they didn't at this.
Well, for
It doesn't matter.
years, I said this is my 20th year of the program, up until the
I
last
love the cadet
couple-
program.
But up to the last couple of years, we were never paid.
We took a cadet and we put him through the police academy, he
Yes,
left.
very thankful for that, thank you, sir.
I'd like to do that once a year, to be honest with you.
Yeah, we'd like to continue that.
We'd like to continue that.
Absolutely.
Again, please do not confuse our question over what it is appropriate for cadets in uniform to be doing to be a criticism of the cadets. It isn't. I resent any suggestion that it is. It's not a criticism of the cadets. They are exceptional young people who deserve the very best in the world. But again, it's a question of what is appropriate, because for every person who thinks it's great that they attend a particular event with a particular purpose, there's going to be just as many, if not more people, and that's regardless of whose event it might be. There will be just as many, if not more people, who think, what are they doing there?
Thank you, Greg. Mr. Gabbard, can you present the two resolutions? One, to update the town code to not allow police officers in uniform to attend political events, and the second one, volunteers of the town of Fishkill to attend political events. And we can vote on those separately.
I would prefer.
Whoa, volunteers to attend political events?
The police cadets are volunteers.
Volunteers, we're not paid employees of the town.
I don't think you can
Correct.
direct volunteers not to attend.
Whatever we just said, whatever we said.
uniform.
I'm not going to vote for that. What I'm going to say is, I would prefer that you guys put it in your bylaws that you're not going to attend political events. You do it from your end, and everyone lives by it.
Right. Now, what is considered to be a political event? Is a 9/11 ceremony, is a
No.
Memorial
That's an
Day?
official town function.
A party. Specifically,
Okay, that's what I mean, I just want to just clarify.
specifically a Republican Party or Democrat Party or any other party where it's a fundraiser, and
That's
people
fine.
may just get all upset.
You have bylaws?
What's that?
You have bylaws?
We have rules and regulations.
How do you
yes.
pass a law in that?
We have ones that are ancient, we have ones that are signed off by the chief.
How long does it take to pass a law to say that?
We don't have bylaw, we have rules and regulations.
How long is it to say that you?
How long would it take to implement a new rule and regulation?
Minutes.
Okay, so,
Great.
I go in the computer, type it up, and give it to the
well,
chief.
you have to have a vote on it, you just can't do it.
So it doesn't take much time at all.
All right, table part two, just do a resolution that police officers in uniform are not allowed.
You want just a resolution, or do you want a local law?
I want the local law to present the resolution to set the public hearing for that.
Well, forgive me, but Mr.
if
Gaba, is there not already a state election provision prohibiting the appearance of law enforcement officers in uniform at political functions?
I've heard there is, I've not looked up the law myself.
Yeah, can you confirm that before drafting a local law? Because it would be redundant if it's against state law.
Okay.
Agreed.
But I'll agree with Detective Bentley, if they put it in their bylaws, we could table that.
I completely agree.
If
Glad
that's
I
the board
brought it
wishes.
up.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. So, July,
For what?
for the police in uniform not to work political fundraisers, to update the town code.
Is that how long you'd need to determine whether or not we'd need a law?
Oh, yeah, no, absolutely, I can have it for July. No
Great.
problem.
All right.
Presuming, of course, that you determine that we would need one.
I'll update the board as soon as I take a look at it. I'll send an email, and then we can discuss it at whichever meeting's earliest.
Thanks. So July?
July.
Table that to July, Madam Clerk? Mr. Clerk? All right. Next up is privilege of the floor for agenda items only. You want to speak about agenda items? Feel free to speak. Can you?
I've got it. Hardly no offense, I got to take my leave for a second.
Louise, you want to go?
You have to wait 5 minutes.
All right.
Want to take a brief recess?
5-minute recess. Can I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion to re-enter. Can I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Privilege of the floor for only agenda items. Ms. Gasson, former councilwoman, how are you?
Hi, Kenya Gaston. Good evening. Thanks for waiting for me. So I came tonight, I had two reasons. One is like a major reason in my life. I need to fix my phone. And two
Greg's
is...
IT at your service.
Yes. Two is, I just was a little concerned that the agenda packet didn't have, and I apologize if somebody said this before I got here, that it just didn't have enough meat and potatoes. So when I was looking at like items 3 to like 7, they were things that really interest me. I'm actually about to be involved in a little group dealing with downstate, because there are different organizations through in the surrounding area that are interested as well. And so I wanted to see what we were saying about it in Fishkill, so that this way, being a part of that, I can kind of bring that to the table, but not understanding fully like what this really entails. It was difficult for me, and even sitting here, like I really got like drips and drives. I know there's communication amongst you guys, but other than that, I really don't get the gist. So if you could help by just trying to be as detailed as possible, that would help with the information, so that this way I understand and I won't have to come. The other thing I want to do is just thank Councilman Foreman for representing the yellow. I don't know if you did that by default, but we are happy that you are joining us in the women's movement. So kudos to you. And the other thing I want to say, well, Greg, you've always been there. This is the first time ever I've seen John wear yellow here, and so yellow represents a lot to those of us who feel like, you know, as women, sometimes we're just not heard, and there's many other issues, but I thank you. And the other thing I have to say is, unfortunately, Councilman Rye, you are part of the problem with the police and the cadets. And this is my opinion, right? I can own that. And I'll tell you why. You are constantly posting them, posting the chief, and in very difficult situations, you know that there is some type of tension, we all can't put our fingers on it, between the supervisor and the chief, and you continue to put him on Front Street. I said this to him, I'll say this publicly, and I don't like it. I think that he doesn't deserve, the chief, to be put on Front Street while you follow through on your political endeavors. You can support the police, in my opinion, and support the EMS and support everybody, but you are above and beyond the top there. And it also is evident in other parts of our community, like the library, right? The library is for us to come and read and do certain things, and there's just certain things when it comes to the police that it is definitely in your face. I want to say, I know Detective Bentley. I know him for a long time. My oldest daughter, who is now 30. Can you believe she's 30, right? 30. She participated in the cadet program, and it was a beautiful program then, and it continues to be a beautiful program. Never have I seen these kids on Flash as much as I've done now, and my daughter was in the program. So I think if you would just think about what you may be contributing to this division that continues to grow, that even if it gives you political gain, it is tearing down a community. It is dividing us, and it continues to divide us just because people are going to choose police every day. I'm going to choose the police every day. I'm going to support the police every day. When I sat in your seat, I supported the police chief, and I supported everything that he said to me because it made sense. You understand me? But what I never did was pit him against Ozzy or pit Ozzy against him. I never did that. And so you may not even be doing these things intentionally. So I challenge you to take a look at what you're doing, how you're presenting them in the situations, and I guarantee you their spotlight probably won't be such a spotlight anymore because you're paying attention to what you're doing to enhance your political career and not putting them in the middle of it. Thank you for your time.
Louise Daniele, 30-year taxpayer and legal resident. I just wanted to, I spoke to Marie, and Marie and I always agree that, you know, we heard.
Always agree?
Except for one thing. Besides that, I love Marie. I agree. I tried to get Marie to run. She wouldn't run. You spoke about memos that you went back and forth, again, it's like the transparency needs to happen, because it's not happening. And we're sitting back here listening to, okay, send that other memo, do this, do that. Tell us, put it in the packet so we all can read it. It shouldn't just be between you, because it should be what the people agree to or not. So for the first thing about downstate, I think you should somehow get a message out to the people that live in that entire vicinity and ask them what they think, because they might not agree with you, and they live there, and they pay taxes, so they deserve a voice in that.
I've
So-
already walked the Cherrywood and the area around there.
You what?
I've already walked that area. I know what the people would like there.
Well,
I've done it.
Okay, you've done that, but maybe they have a different opinion than what they said. So just to make sure that this is what they want. So I hear you, but I'd like to hear them. That's one. As far as number 10 with the easement, who's paying for that? Who's
Say
paying
that
for
again?
that? Who is paying for the fence to be moved by their company?
It would be the town.
So
And
the
we would-
taxpayers
Mr.
are
Gabbard
paying for
explain-
that.
Explain how that would work.
The quid pro quo there is that the town would pay for moving the fence. In return, the town is going to, if they agree, get a site easement over their property.
So the money's coming where? Out of the general
We have
fund?
it might not pass. If there's consensus to do it, then I'll find it.
And I think you said tonight that you thought that it was an error. Was it really an error? Because
Was what really an error?
the way you said to them that I think issuing the
Joel
permit
issued
was
an
an error.
He issued the building permit in error. Yes, it was a
Well,
mistake. He
That's
revoked
not-
it subsequently.
Okay, that's not what
New
he
York
told me,
State
so
law
I don't
doesn't
know.
hold us
Again,
accountable for
it just would be nice to hear more about what it is and a definitive answer. Those people were frustrated, obviously. It's a little comical that Brian would sit up here and pretend like he knew nothing about it, because we were in executive sessions and discussed it. Every single person knew about it. So to make it sound like you're the hero who's going to do the right thing now. Okay.
No, that's incorrect.
Yeah, okay.
I said
That's my
I have
opinion.
not been involved in it, and she said she called me, and I said I have not gotten a call, and I'm hearing about it again tonight, and I think I expressed a little frustration on her behalf, so, no.
Okay.
Full
Your
disclosure,
opinion?
John is trying.
My opinion, huh?
He's been trying.
Brian's been trying?
Councilman Foreman.
I'm not talking about him, I'm talking about Brian. Yeah. Apparently, he didn't answer the phone 90 times, so I mean, that's up to them. I guess he didn't try hard enough. Let's see. The elections. Oh, the 81 Route 82, nobody knew what that was until we came tonight. I was told that it was donated, so I think, can you get the real background on it so that we know before it's put on there if it really can be sold or put up on to be sold? And who's getting that money? So is the highway superintendent gung-ho on this so he can have the proceeds from it? Or is he entitled to it? So I'm just kind of wondering where that money's going to, and if it's the highway.
There was a brief discussion to use that money to pave Shepherd's Park and do the drainage next year with that money.
Okay.
This is just preliminary. This is, the town board would have to, town
Okay.
board has to approve that.
Okay. Let's see, what was the other thing? For the cadets and the going to the political events, I agree with the supervisor and with Councilmember Tatino. I'm an independent, so it doesn't matter to me what party you're in, but Kenya's 100% right. It's looking political when that happens. You know, we, the prior board, stopped the police department from wearing their uniform at Walmart that was representing the town. I think it does the same thing with the cadets. I don't think the cadets have anything to do with it. It's who's running it that makes the decision. So just, nothing against you, I think you're doing a great job. But just to say, like, we've been doing this for 10, 12, 15 years, is not okay. You know, just because it's been done doesn't mean that it should be done. So my opinion is that it should not be done in the future. However you guys have to get to that point, whether it's him just changing it in 30 seconds or you guys making a resolution, I think it should be done. Also in noting, I didn't know that they go out of state. I didn't know they go places on taxpayers' dime. I'm not saying I don't want them to, but I want the police department to be fair when they actually assist people. And I'm talking about town employees. So if our tax collector has to go to a bank, and there's numerous banks, and she has to go to Poughkeepsie to a bank, she shouldn't be told that she can't go, the officer can't escort her there because it's out of Fishkill. So if they're going out of state, if they're going to other places, we should absolutely be assisting our employees that work here. And 100%. I would ask that the police commission inform the chief that he should do that immediately.
Well, as far as I'm aware, there was a resolution adopted which contained a directive And as far as
Yeah,
I am aware, that directive was not
For what?
followed.
It's been taken care of.
Oh.
It's been
I'd
taken
like
care
to-
of.
I'd
This
like to
afternoon was
confirm
taken
that.
care of.
It was
I
the
can't
first
tell you.
time, and
Yes,
now,
I agree with
why
Brian.
this company that takes the money just all of a sudden decides not to show up if they have an ongoing thing? You know, and then all of a sudden, she's got to scramble, and it is a miscommunication. So there's a logistics that'll be worked out.
We're going to get it worked out.
Yeah, but when you say, no, we're not going to follow you out of town, it's something that should never happen.
I completely agree with you.
Thank you.
That's not going to happen again. Ms. LaGoy?
Oh, before Ms. LaGoy speaks, if I can just add, because we've heard from two residents about the state of the agenda. I gave Joe a crash course on how to use the agenda software. I think one of the things that I may have omitted in my rush to get Joe up to speed was how certain documents and things are added into items. And generally speaking, when I served as your secretary, there was a sort of understanding with discussion items and other things that relevant documents and things, they were always added in, and perhaps because that didn't come in the form of a directive, I didn't think that I needed to communicate it to Joe, and I should have, so I'd be happy to sit with Joe again in the next couple of weeks as the next agenda gets put together, just to show him, you know, the type of extra document, whether it's a PDF file or something, that would be added that would provide greater context, so there's greater transparency, and residents viewing the agenda or coming to the meetings will have a more complete sense of what's being discussed. I'd be happy to do that.
Joe and Debbie were very pivotal of saving taxpayers close to 30 grand with the website. He's focusing now on the eGovs, the Facebook page. So he's been here only his 5th month, and he's doing a great job. And I'm sure this won't be a problem in the future. Mr. Boyd?
Yeah, that's great. I'm glad to hear it. And, I mean, that's not anything on you that
No,
that
it's
wasn't
on
added.
me. I
It's
should've-
on you, Greg.
Yep.
Okay,
Sorry.
so, so
on
now
me.
we know where to point the finger.
Sorry.
I also agree about the cadets. I mean, it's been, and this is, I agree with Councilman Rye. It's got nothing to do with the cadets. They should not be utilized, and I do believe that they are being utilized or exploited even by going to certain events. And, you know, it's just there's this terrible division, and it seems to just be getting needled and prodded at every opportunity. It's extremely frustrating as a citizen, as a tax-paying citizen. So I really appreciate that that's being looked at. The lit up billboards, the one on 9 coming north, and I travel all the time from our vet office north, is flashing, and you have to really work to not look at this thing. I don't know what the heck it says, but it is so incredibly distracting, and, you know, I don't think, I would not like to see lit up billboards all along 52. I mean, there's enough going on. Those billboards are huge, and I certainly would not want to see moving billboards, the LED billboards. So I hope that there is something that you can do to prevent that from happening. I mean, I'm shocked that New York State, and that's a state highway, that they would even allow that, because it is such a distraction. It's not safe, and that particular spot along Route 9 is already a death trap. So hopefully that can be looked at and prevented from continuing to spread.
Anybody else? Okay. Next up is the consent agenda. I'll make a motion to accept the consent agenda, present that as a motion. Can I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Next up is a resolution. Next up is ID 9320, authorizing the chief of police to provide cadet color guards and one officer for the Hometown Heroes celebrations. Whereas the town supervisor, Ozzie Alver, will be hosting a celebration for the Hometown Heroes honoring local veterans, and whereas Supervisor Alver is requesting that the chief of police provide the availability of the Town of Fishkill Police Cadets Color Guard, and whereas Supervisor Alver is also requesting the chief of police to provide coverage of one police officer for the celebration of the event to be held May 29th at 6 p.m. at the Town of Fishkill Town Hall. Now therefore it be resolved that the Town of Fishkill Chief of Police is now hereby required to coordinate the availability of a Town of Fishkill police cadet, color guards, and provide one police officer for the Hometown Hero Celebration on May 29th at 6 p.m. at the Town of Fishkill Town Hall. I'll present that as a motion. Can I have a second?
Second.
Roll call vote.
Discussion?
Discussion.
So, question, have you contacted the chief and asked him to provide cadet, that's what's in the resolution?
I know I have not.
So, any reason why not? I mean, I just seems like it's silly to put it in a resolution, when all you gotta do is make a phone call.
It's not silly. We asked him last year to do the Hometown Hero banners, and he was unavailable. I've asked him to do 9/11, the 20th anniversary of 9/11. All of a sudden, they were unavailable. We passed a resolution. The police are a paramilitary operation. This is not unusual to do this. This is the proper way to be doing it, as a matter of fact.
Yeah, I mean, because if you think about when requests were made in the past, schedules were set in such a way, you didn't have the manpower available, that was what was explained to us. A town board resolution authorizing him to adjust the schedule as necessary to ensure that the resources are here at the time. Perhaps he needs to call an extra officer in, perhaps someone gets a little overtime. I don't know how the police department handles the scheduling of officers and resources, but I'm sure that having a document that authorizes him to do what is necessary to coordinate that will make it easier from a scheduling standpoint.
I think it's silly, but I'm gonna vote for it.
Any other discussion? So I made a motion. Can I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Thank you. All right, I think I got
Can we have,
some items of special consideration. So there's two discussion and two resolutions for water and sewer hookup at a house on Old Castle Point Road. Are you guys okay with letting them hook in? Camo says it's good. That'll be our
They signed off
discussion.
on it?
Yep, Camo was good on it. You guys good with it?
sure.
Greg?
DeFrancisco sign off on it too?
Yeah, he's the one that put this together.
Okay, good, then yeah. we're
So
good.
that's the discussion for both of them, so I'll just read the resolves.
Which one are you doing first, the
I'll do
water
the-
or sewer?
I'll do the sewer first, it's right in front of me.
Got it.
ID number 9353, to approve out-of-district sewer tenant for Old Castle Point Road. Now therefore it be resolved, the town board of the town of Fishkill does hereby grant the request of the property owner at Castle Point Road, parcel ID number 133-089-59, 56-04-91107-000 to connect to the Roundabout Sewer District as an out-of-district water tenant, and further resolved, such connection shall be contingent on the property owner's payment of all costs associated with this connection, including engineering and capital buy-in fees specified by the town fee schedule, and to be further resolved, the town supervisor and/or his designee are hereby authorized to take any all actions necessary to carry out the provisions. Further resolved, the resolution shall be effective immediately. I'll present that as a motion. Can I have a second?
Second.
Okay, that's the sewer.
All in favor?
Huh?
All in favor?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Next up is for the water. Resolution to approve the request for Roundabout water out-of-district tenant, same parcel, same person. Further resolved that the connection shall be contingent upon the property owner's payment of all costs associated with the connection, including engineering and capital buy-in fees specified for the town fee schedule, and be it further resolved, the town supervisor and/or his authorized designee are hereby authorized to take any all actions necessary to carry out the provisions of the resolution. Further resolved, this resolution shall be effective immediately. I present that as motion. Can I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, now this one is the contract for the baseball lighting.
Can I ask a question about that before we
Yeah,
go?
you mentioned that in your email.
Yeah. I'm you wrote prevailing wage, and you also wrote, did this contractor do the sexual harassment training? So are we, if we say, you must pay prevailing wage, given the bid now, is it going to increase it, and do we have to come back and amend that? How do we know, where that thing is, and shouldn't we wait until we know their training is completed? I just have those two concerns.
Well, in terms of prevailing wage, they got the contract off public bid, so I would expect that it's already subject to prevailing wage. Nevertheless, you have to protect the town in regard to that issue. So I put in a provision here saying that if they want us to sign, if they want the town to sign off on it, they're going to have to acknowledge the prevailing wage applies to the installation. If it turns out that they did not plan on paying prevailing wage, they're going to come back to you and say, it's going to cost you X dollars more, and you're going to have a revised contract, you're going to have to vote on it again. In terms of the sexual harassment
I wanna get
prevention
this stuff done.
policy,
The sexual harassment policy,
they're either going to say, yes, we've already complied, or we are exempt from it. They have to give you a letter to one or the other. There's just no way around that. But you can just accept the letter that they give you. It's not like you go and whinge.
so even if they don't have it, it doesn't matter.
Well, the town has to insist that there's a provision in its contracts, or at least if there isn't, there's proof submitted to you that they've complied with the New York State sexual harassment prevention policy, which, as you
So
say.
they've either done it or they're exempt?
They have to submit a letter saying one
So
or
they
the
can't
other.
do it then.
I beg your pardon?
They can't do it then unless they have the letter.
You are required
They
to have that in every.
can't get on the state bid if they're not, they don't do these things.
In New York, yeah, but it might have been an out-of-state public bid.
This is in-state.
Oh, if it's in-state,
Is
then they're
Musco
required
in-state?
to.
In state, this, New York State Sourcewell, they have the bid for New
Then
York
if it's,
State.
then I'm sure that they did, because they wouldn't get the bid otherwise.
All
That's
right.
what would be required for the contract.
Any other questions?
You comfortable?
Yeah. This is,
I'm good with it.
yeah, this is gonna be good. It's gonna be real good for Little League. All right.
Oh, it's going to be great for Little League.
So we did discuss, that, Becky, this was discussion and a resolution for this too, so we just discussed it. Here's the resolution. Resolution approving field lighting purchase contract for Shepherd Memorial Park. Whereas the town board has before its consideration a proposed contract with Musco Sports Lighting LLC off public bid for the purchase of the sale of light structure system which controls the installation at Shepherd Memorial Park Field. And whereas the town board has budgeted funds for this contract and is prepared to go forward with the purchase of the lights for the Shepherd Memorial Park Field. Now therefore it be resolved as follows. Number one, that the town board hereby approves the said contract subject to the following conditions. I, that paragraph 13 be revised to state that this is a non-taxable sale. I, that the provision be added to the contract, either in text or as a writer, stating that installation work will be done at prevailing wage. And I, that Musco Sporting Lighting LLC shall submit the written representation to the town board that it complies with New York State sexual harassment policy or is exempt from the same. And three, that the subject to the aforesaid conditions, the town supervisor is authorized to execute the same and all documents necessary to carry out the aforementioned. So, Mr. Gava, on this resolution, we talked about the prevailing wage. Can we just scratch that out?
Assuming that they represent to you that they are paying prevailing wage.
So they
in
have to do,
writing.
to get on the state bid, they have to be on doing a prevailing wage.
They're supposed to be, yes, but you want something in your file saying that they're going to pay prevailing wage, because if they don't, people can complain and the state could come after you.
Oh, I understand that provision. I got you. We've done that before.
Yeah.
Okay. I'll present that as a motion. Can I have a second?
Second.
Foreman, all in favor?
Aye.
Perfect. Let's go. All right.
Is there another?
We have some new business. You got any new old business?
No, I haven't.
John?
Yep. So in the spirit of political correctness, I'm going to ask for a resolution for the May 15th meeting that our town parks should not be rented to political parties for their events, including the rec center. When the town rents the park or rec center to a political party or a political candidate, it makes it look like the town is endorsing a political party or a political candidate.
You could put it on the agenda, yes. You gotta get a
Would you
second.
support that?
I don't think so. I don't know. I'll think about it.
Okay.
I'll consider it.
I'll consider it.
So, Becky, May 15th,
Take that for discussion items?
discussion and resolution?
Okay.
Okay. Why?
Yes, Greg and I worked on the film permit. Yes, I'm going to be passing it around to Dutchess, who encourages filming in the county, and also to Hudson Valley Film, and see if they have any comments that they might want to give. So we should have this, and then Greg and I are going to meet
Yes.
And so coincidental, Greg, I'm going to bust you right now.
Okay.
That you're thinking of writing a script, and I am writing a script, and we're
Indeed.
going to be talking about the film permit. This is exciting.
It is.
I feel a
it is
bond.
Serendipity.
Yeah.
So is this ready to vote on or not?
It will, we'll bring a draft for the next meeting.
Yes. Good enough?
Mm-hmm.
All right. So done.
I do want to
Yeah.
go in executive session.
Okay. I got one from the HR director about we're looking for a controller still, and she wants to advertise, and there's a couple sites that cost money to do it. One is the New York Society of CPAs, is $4.99, and the second one is Hudson Valley Help Wanted, is $4.15, and Indeed, a 30-day sponsored, which is about $1,175. I'd like to do this, I'd just like to see if I can get your permission to go ahead and do it.
I guess we can go for it.
Yeah, go ahead.
Do I have to do a resolution now, or?
I'm sorry, resolution for
And the HR director wants to use some fees to do some recruiting.
Yes.
Can I do a resolution right here, or just?
Do you need a budget modification?
I don't know yet. It's gonna cost a total of
$2,000.
Yeah.
You want to authorize an expenditure of up to $2,000?
No, it will be at 500 plus.
I don't think it's that much. Add it up.
Add it up.
I got a calculator if you want to read it to me.
2,089, so say 2,200?
You want to authorize $2,200 for,
Well, I don't know where I'm gonna get the money either, I just wanna make sure.
well, it'll come out of
Advertising.
general fund unless you decide that you're going to pull it out of somewhere else.
Yeah, so we need a controller, and the HR director recommended we do this so we can get some applicants. And it's gonna cost $2,100.
I hear you. They're probably better if, can this wait until the 15th? Then we can do
We
it
really
upright
need-
in terms of,
Can I
That's
just
the
say, is there a way we can just do this now?
yes, you can
Or-
just
or
do it. I'm
can-
trying to figure out how to phrase it, but I mean, you
Oh.
want $2,200 to spend on what?
Recruitment
Ad-
advertisement for the controller.
Yeah.
Recruitment and advertisement of the controller. There you go. Like a motion to authorize the expenditure of $2,200 on recruitment and advertising for the position of the controller.
So moved.
President has a motion.
Second.
Foreman, all in favor?
Aye.
So who writes this resolution?
You just adopted the resolution. You
So
don't,
we don't have to write a resolution?
no, you can do
No.
all resolutions.
Really?
Cooper will have
But
to
you're
write the
going to,
resolution
you're
tomorrow.
going to want, if you don't want the
Sorry,
money to
bud.
come out of general fund, you're going to want to do a budget modification for the next meeting. Because otherwise
Okay.
money's coming
So
out of general
if I can get it out of the general fund, it's done?
Yeah.
If I have to do a budget transfer, I have to come back the next meeting?
Exactly
with it?
right.
Got it.
Joe, remind me of that. Budget transfer.
Mm-hmm.
That's
Becky,
that
did you
one.
get the resolution?
Authorize, I wrote $2,200 general fund advertising and recruitment for the position of comptroller.
That's it.
If it's out the general fund, we don't have to come back. If it comes from somewhere else, it has to come out. Okay. Okay, that's good. All right. Next one, when we did the emergency water repair on Bickerhoff, there was one resident that had a problem. Camel got involved, and it was advised that they would have to get it fixed and that we could possibly reimburse them. I think the amount is $2,077. I'm gonna check with Sharon to make sure we have that in the water district. Are you guys adverse to doing that?
Well, what happened?
I guess the pressure valve broke due to the pressure coming back in, and Tremper said it was the problem. Listen, it was the whole district, that's the only problem we had. Would you guys consider that,
I'd go for it.
if we have the money in the water account?
Yeah, why not?
Greg?
Yeah.
Okay. Last thing I have is the dedication to the Spanish-American War for Sidney Schofield. You guys all had that in your email.
I like it.
What was it, Joe, $3,000?
Yeah, $3,050.
So you guys okay with this?
Yeah, very good.
Okay.
Absolutely.
We don't have to vote on it today. I gotta figure out where to get this money. This one can wait till the 15th.
But that's definitely, as far as I'm concerned, we're good to go for a resolution for that.
Yeah, resolutions, I gotta find out what to get the 3K for.
Absolutely.
Once we have that, we're good to go on that. Next town board meeting is on the 15th. Councilman Foreman wants to go into executive session. Nothing
To discuss
Personnel.
Discuss
matter.
personnel matter. I'll make a motion to leave the general order of business. Can I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Thank you, guys.
Becky, do you have a form?
I'll find one for
Thank
you,
you.
sir.
Tomorrow.